Away we go on a Wednesday. It is a Power Ranking Wednesday. Great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in Big 12 Studios. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. We are loaded up today. You know, a lot of times we'll come in and be like, yeah, it's a big show. Got a lot going on. But nothing like what we've got today. We're going to have two football coaches in the Big 12, including the coach of the 8-0 BYU Cougars, Kalani Sitake, will join us in the final hour of the show today. So, too, will Tommy Lloyd, fresh off Arizona's win in Vegas to open the season over the defending champion Florida Gators. Tommy Lloyd, the head basketball coach for Arizona, will join us. And coming up in the first hour of the show, we'll be talking with Rich Rod, West Virginia coach Rich Rodriguez, as they won on the road, got a huge win over Houston. It hasn't been the banner year for West Virginia, but they have a win over Pitt, a rival win, who is, as we'll get to in a moment, ranked in the first college football playoff rankings somehow, despite a loss to a 3-win West Virginia team, and on the road to a ranked Houston team, which is something, as we mentioned, Neil Brown never did in his tenure at West Virginia. So Rich Rod joins us later on with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. Tammy Turner is producing today's show. So stay tuned for all three of those coaches on today's show. It's going to be a lot of fun. But on this What's New Wednesday here, presented by Modelo, we've got to react to the inaugural rankings release for the college football playoff, James. The good news, the bad news. The good news is there's 3 teams in the top 15 for the Big 12. Actually, 3 teams in the top 13, with both BYU and Texas Tech ranked higher than the AP poll. Also, Utah checking in at 13. So 3 Big 12 teams ranked in the top 13, James. But only 3 teams ranked out of the Big 12. Also, congratulations to Texas Tech. Hard to believe, but this is the first time that Texas Tech has been ranked in the college football playoff rankings. Both Tech and Vanderbilt were 2 teams in the Power 4 that had never been ranked in the college football playoff rankings in its history. They've now crossed that off. So now only Cal, Rutgers, and Maryland are the only Power 4 schools to never have appeared in the college football playoff rankings.
Wow, there's only 3 left?
And it's hard to believe that Texas Tech was last in the Big 12.
Right. I would think the same thing. But I know that going into this season, there were only 3 teams that hadn't been ranked even in the AP Top 25 in like the last 4 or 5 years. And it was Vanderbilt, Rutgers, and Texas Tech. And so they checked that box very early in the season. And now with the college football playoff, I don't know why in my mind it feels like there would be more teams that have never appeared in the college football playoff rankings. But then I guess I forget that they still rank them 1 through 25.
Right.
Right. It's not necessarily 1 through 12 or 1 through 16. It is their own top 25 poll. And now, moving forward, because of these rankings, when watching games on television and you look at the score bug and you see the ranking number next to your favorite team, it's going to be the college football playoff ranking, not necessarily the AP top 25, which I think is a really good thing because it diminishes the power and the weight that the AP top 25 has and focuses more on what really matters, and that is the college football playoff rankings.
Yeah, so ultimately, good news, bad news. Good news, 3 teams ranked in the top 13. Bad news, only 3 teams ranked. But I think ultimately what the college football playoff committee is telling us is the Big 12 is better than the ACC, which we knew. 5 ACC teams are ranked, but all 5 of them between 14 and 24. And most people of all of the rankings disagree with Miami being as low as they are. Virginia is 14th. They're the highest-ranked ACC team. Hard to believe that Virginia is 8-1 overall, 5-0 in the ACC. Funny enough, their one loss is to NC State, but they're undefeated in ACC play because that was a non-conference game against NC State. NC State has multiple wins against top teams in the ACC. It's wild, including the win they had against Georgia Tech this week. But I think, James, that's the huge takeaway here is the SEC in the Big 10 litters the top 12 and top 25. The Big 12 is clearly the 3rd best conference in the eyes of the committee, and the ACC is far behind.
Definitely. And I would say that based off this first batch of rankings, that the gap between the SEC and the Big 10, if you want to lump those two together, and the Big 12 in the eyes of the committee is maybe as slim as it's ever been. I don't see a lot of bad when I look at the college football playoff initial ratings because BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah, sure, those are the only 3 teams in the top 25 from the Big 12, but all 3 of those teams are ranked higher in this college football playoff rankings than the AP top 25. So that tells me that collectively the committee looks at the Big 12 in a better light than the AP. And when we do our power rankings later today, I don't necessarily disagree that there's a tremendous gap between the top 3 teams in the Big 12 and everybody else. And I think that was evident with the way Utah beat Cincinnati over the weekend. And I think that's a big reason why Cincinnati is not appearing in the initial top 25. But for Utah to be 13, BYU 7, and Texas Tech 8, I mean, BYU's the lowest ranked undefeated team. And sure, that might rub some people the wrong way. But they've had to come from behind in 4 of their 5 wins in the second half. And if they beat Texas Tech this weekend, all of that goes out the window. Like, that's the only thing that's missing from their resume is a really signature win of that caliber on the road, which would vault them into the top 5 in next week's poll. So I think the Big 12 collectively, it's a long way of saying, is in a really good spot.
Yeah, and clearly in position to get 2 teams in.
Definitely.
Now, I think BYU, Utah, and Texas Tech need to keep winning. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, Texas Tech and BYU play this week, so one team is going to lose there. I would submit that it's a bigger game for Texas Tech than BYU because Tech with a loss would then join the Congo line of 2-loss Big 12 teams and may not even be in position to get to the Big 12 championship because they would have the tiebreaker over Houston. Arizona State is a 2-loss team. Tech would not have the tiebreaker over Arizona State. Cincinnati only has 1 loss in conference play, so they'd be technically looking up at Cincinnati. So again, I mean, at this point, if you're Tech, a win helps you secure a spot in the Big 12 title game. A loss, and you join a group of teams you're fighting with for tiebreakers down the stretch of this season.
Well, and BYU and Cincinnati play each other next weekend, so that will kind of work its way out. But definitely, the Big 12 needs these 3 teams to have 2 or fewer losses individually. If anybody suffers a 3rd loss, that's where I think the conversation of the Big 12 getting 2 as a lock and maybe 3 gets thrown out the window. Then you're looking at best case scenario is 2. But if these teams keep playing the way they're playing, they're going to win. I mean, they're going to beat the teams they should beat in Big 12 play. And the only outlier for Texas Tech is that they're the one team that has a loss against somebody that's not one of those 3 schools, right? Because they lost to Arizona State. So those scenarios we were running through earlier this week of when these teams play each other, if they can beat everybody else on their schedule, man, we could be talking about definitely 2 and maybe 3 teams in this year's college football playoff. I don't think it could possibly shape up any better.
And look, I mean, the pressure ramps up now, and I think players and teams feel it as much as coaches try to talk them out of it because crazy things happen. Like every year, we and many others in the media sit here and project out and talk about things, and well, this will happen because they're a better team than this team, and crazy things happen. Upsets happen. These things tend to work themselves out, and it does not go as you'd expect. It's important to note Mack Rhodes, the athletic director at Baylor, is now the committee chair, so he's the one meeting with the media following the release of these rankings. And I will say, it feels like there's less controversy in these rankings than we've seen, so not a ton for him to talk himself into a pretzel about, because that's usually what happens here is, like, it's hard to justify certain positioning. Like Notre Dame lost to Miami, and yet Notre Dame finds himself right outside the top 10. Are they 10th?
They're number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, Utah, the only teams in front of Utah that have 2 losses are Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma. I don't really have a problem with that when you factor in their strengths of schedule for all 3 of those teams.
Well, 2 of 3. I mean, Notre Dame's win over USC's, that's their only top 25 and their best win. You could argue the Boise win, but Boise's not even that good this year relative to their expectation. I mean, Fresno State, who lost to Kansas in week 0, beat Boise State. So Notre Dame has 2 very good losses.
Yeah, and
to the Ags
and I do think,
and to Miami.
like, if we're gonna talk about SP Plus and the Ken Palm of college football and factor in the analytics, I do think that we can't just put the Big 12 in a box. Like, I do look at the fact that Notre Dame lost week 0 at Miami on a last-second field goal. They lost to a really good Texas A&M team that finds themselves in the top 3 by 1, a game that could have gone either way. And then they did beat the only ranked team on their schedule. Their resume is comparable to Utah. Like, Utah doesn't have any top 25 wins, but when we look at Utah, we factor in the way they're beating people. Well, they do have a top 25 win if you include Cincinnati from the AP top 25. But we're looking at the way they beat them, right? And we're looking at the way they lost to BYU in a close game on the road. That's why SP Plus is so high on Utah, because of all the metrics and the analytics.
Well, and it's also important to note the process here with new analytics that the committee is looking at, and they're not exactly transparent about what those metrics are, so we don't know exactly what they're looking at. But here's what Mac Rhodes told Reese Davis on ESPN following the release of the first college football playoff rankings.
I'm just recollecting, and I'm going back to all of the conversation. I don't know that there was, any one team where that really stood out. Again, we've got, all of the metrics at our disposal when we think about schedule strength, and, we tweaked that, where we gave more weight to stronger teams. So that was an adjustment for us this year. We introduced the new record strength metric, but we looked at all of it. We certainly looked at all of the statistical data. So I don't know that there was any one when we looked at schedule strength that really moved a needle for us or changed our mind significantly.
So there's Mac Rhodes talking through the metrics. In previous years we've heard about game control. Now they're talking about strength of record as a metric. Mm-hmm. Here's what Mac Rhodes said. This is clip 10, Taman. Here's what Mac Rhodes said on why the college football playoff chose Alabama over teams such as BYU or Ole Miss.
I'm not sure when you look at resume, anybody had a better stretch of 4 games. When you think about Alabama, really, really impressive. 2 of those wins on the road. Going into Athens, one of the hardest, toughest environments to be able to get out of there with a win. There was certainly discussion about the Florida State loss early on, but just felt like that 4-game stretch, which by the way, historical in the SEC. Nobody's beaten four ranked teams without a bye, and then they also finish that up with a good win against South Carolina. So that was the discussion. I think they're getting elite quarterback play right now from Simpson. So a really, really good football team.
Yeah, I mean, good rationale, good reasoning there.
Yes.
This is one where it's weird because it feels like I come fired up every single rankings release, and it's hard to be fired up. Like, if you go further down the rankings, a 3-loss Tennessee team without any good wins, I mean, do they need to be 25? Could Cincinnati or Houston have been thrown in there to give the Big 12 a 4th team? Yeah, I mean, you can make the case, but I think both at this point are clearly on the outside looking in terms of the playoff race and the Big 12 title race.
Absolutely. And to be fair, when I look at the college football playoff rankings, I'm really only going down to about the top 15 teams.
Right.
Like, frankly, I don't care who's ranked 16 through 25. It's going to have no impact on the actual college football playoff, at least as of now. And I think this year, this first batch, they got it right. Like, I can see why they had Alabama number 4. Alabama has won 7 in a row, and they beat 4 top 20 teams and 2 of them on the road in a 4-game stretch. That justifies, to me, their ranking, including a road win at Georgia. Not a lot of teams are going to go into Athens and win at Georgia. So they have the same record as Georgia, but they're ranked 1 spot higher because they beat them head-to-head. BYU and Texas Tech maybe don't have the overall strength of schedule, but they have the metrics, the analytics, They pass the eye test, and I think they're ranked very appropriately. And in years past, I'm not sure that Oregon at 7-1, that was the biggest thing that stunned me as I'm watching this, is that BYU and Texas Tech both are ranked ahead of Oregon because it's Oregon. Sure, they have the better resume. We can sit here and argue until we're blue in the face why those two teams should be ranked ahead of Oregon, but I didn't think the committee would actually do it. So I like hearing from Mack Rhoades because the way he talks and he explains the process, he just sounds like a guy to me that gets it.
Yeah.
Like, he gets football. He understands. When he talks about Ty Simpson playing at an elite level and being a completely different quarterback than he was week 1 against Florida State, that is a guy that understands the game and the process and the seasons within the seasons. And so I have no complaints as we sit here today.
Here's what Mack Rhoades said about Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, again, great respect for them. Going into Utah, and again, we've got Utah ranked at 13, but going into Utah and winning at Utah, we thought was a really, really quality win. The loss at Arizona State without Barron at quarterback. Arizona State wins that late. So we do talk about, quality wins. We also talk about quality losses. But Texas Tech, just a really, really good football team. And look, we tried to help ESPN out with their ratings, getting BYU and Texas Tech together with game day in Lubbock. So enjoy that.
Can't tell if he's joking. Truly, he's like you, Ari. I can't tell if he's being serious or if he's joking. We're trying to help out ESPN with their ratings, so we put BYU and Texas Tech side by side. That's like one of those things where he maybe comes off as he's joking, but it's definitely a half-truth.
He's definitely not joking, and he's definitely helping out the Big 12 in that regard too, right?
Yeah. I mean, all things can be true, and it's going to be a hell of a football game. I cannot wait for it, and I love the fact that they didn't knock Texas Tech. Again, he sounds like a guy that understands football. Like, he recognizes that Texas Tech lost Barron Morton for the Arizona State game and that Sam Leavitt was playing for Arizona State. That paints a completely different picture than if Barron Morton's healthy and let's say Sam Leavitt is not and they lose that football game. He gets it when he talks about these teams and everything that goes into where these teams should be ranked, and I couldn't be happier with this first batch.
Yeah, so I would say ultimately, as we sit here and think through any disagreements we might have or whatever, the one thing that I notice about this is it's not going to happen every year, but it looks like it's shaping up to be one of those years where the criteria for winning a conference championship, getting you automatically in, will not look good. So, number one, the group of 5. There's nobody from the group of 5, group of 6 that is in the top 25. The committee writes in their release, note, the committee selected Memphis as the best team for the remaining conferences. So they at this point don't have a group of 5 or group of 6 champ that justifies being in the playoff because they don't have anybody even close to the top 25. There's really no disagreement there. The other one is Miami in the ACC. Miami is a rough shot away from playing for the ACC championship, despite being the best ACC team from a resume standpoint. So most years it's going to work itself out where like it makes sense. The conference championship should get the automatic bid. But the way this thing is shaping out, like Miami is the best team from the ACC from a resume standpoint. If Virginia wins the ACC, then Virginia's going to be the one ACC team that gets in, and it feels weird because Miami, again, from a resume standpoint, has the best resume. So it won't happen every year, but it seems like it's shaping up this year, James, to where that designation of conference champs get the automatic berth is not going to work out.
I mean, Virginia, Louisville, Georgia Tech, and Miami are all logged jam between 14 and 18. They're 4 of those 5 spots. Whoever wins that conference championship game, I think would finish naturally probably in the top 12 of the rankings. However, with that said, I don't think that league is in a position to get more than one
like
they were last year. And the ACC this year reminds me a little bit of what the Big 12 went through last year. I mean, there were a lot of people outside of this conference saying Arizona State wasn't one of the 12 best teams in college football. And they played their tail off against Texas, and I think they proved to the nation that, first of all, Cam Scatterbo introduced himself to the public, number one. And then number two, I think after that game, people sat back and said, okay, that is a league that deserved to have a team in the college football playoff, certainly. This year, it's really nice. Like, it just feels so foreign and so different to sit here and look at 3 teams in the top 13 and think this is a conference that, as of now, is a lock to get to. A lot can change, but as we sit here today, a lock to get to, and maybe 3. And now we're looking at the ACC kind of like where the Big 12 was last year.
Yeah, and again, there's 6 teams in front of Miami that have 1 loss or 0. I mean, Virginia does not have a loss in conference. Mm-hmm. And then there's 5 teams ahead of them with just 1 loss. Duke, SMU, Louisville, Pitt, Georgia Tech.
Like, Duke could mess this whole thing up. Duke could be your ACC champion, and they're not even anywhere to be found in the top 25.
And, like, we'll see how this thing plays out, but if Miami is 9 or 10-2 when the season ends and doesn't play for the ACC championship, they're going to be the best team of the ACC, and they're not going to get a chance to get a bid, which, again, is a reason for why the designation of conference champions getting an automatic bid doesn't always work out. With James Wesley, I'm Ari Temkin. Plenty to get to today, including more reaction from the inaugural CFP rankings. Rich Rodriguez is coming up in about 30 minutes from now. Plus, of course, as mentioned earlier, we're talking with Kalani Sitake in the final hour of the show, and Tommy Lloyd will join us live, the Arizona basketball coach, in that final hour as well as we roll along. There were a couple of more Big 12 basketball games last night. We'll give you the rundown on those. Plus, this is the year of the freshman, and maybe more specifically the year of the freshman in the Big 12. We'll explain next. This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. James Wesley, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. We've got Rich Rodriguez coming up in about 15 minutes from right now. And we're talking college football playoff rankings. Tommy Lloyd, the Arizona basketball coach, and Kalani Sitake later on in the show today. So we are loaded up with 3 different Big 12 coaches.
And man, Rich Rod, like there's this coaching account that I follow on X or Twitter that I want to ask him about. It's Coach Dan Casey, I think, and he takes a bunch of clips from really forward-thinking college football plays, and he gives you the all-22, and then he diagrams it. And I learned so much just from what these college football coaches are trying to do. And like Rich Rod at West Virginia is so innovative. They were basically running like a service academy offense against Houston, like quarterback counters and double wing and so many guys lined up at various spots in the backfield. And they do most teams can't run those type of offenses on a whim because they don't know how to line up. They get penalized. They have too many guys or not enough guys on the line of scrimmage. They get called for illegal blocks downfield. But Rich Rod's team, I mean, they ran it flawlessly against Houston, and Fox gets the Big 12 Freshman of the Week. Like, that was a massive win.
And I think it's a great point and shows, how versatile and smart Rich Rod is as an offensive tactician. The other part, though, is like that's why there's these upsets late in the year.
Yeah.
Because teams throw crazy things at other teams, and like they're not trying to help out Houston. Nobody's trying to help Houston. Nobody's trying to help Tech. Nobody's trying to help BYU. These teams are scratching and clawing for wins. Bill O'Brien is leading a 1-8 BC team. He went off at a reporter for commenting on how down they are. Some question, he's like, "We're not down. We're scratching and clawing for." I mean, but that's like, it's Bill O'Brien blowing up. But at the same time, it's like that's how these coaches feel. Like they're trying to look for any edge they can get to get a win, because every win is hard to get, and they're trying to get every one they possibly can. That's why these upsets happen this time of year, and why we try to project this thing out with the playoff. Be like, "Oh, they'll beat them. They're 1-8." It's like they'll beat West Virginia. They've got 2 wins. Well, not so fast.
Right. Like this week, and it really started last weekend, when the calendar for college football flips over to the month of November, that's when the crazies come out. Like that's when every game is wheels off, so unpredictable, because these teams have mastered in practice the execution portion. They still might not have the dudes, but everybody's pretty much mastered offensively and defensively the schematics of whatever system they're trying to run. So this time of year, they start throwing in a few more wrinkles and a sprinkle of this and a sprinkle of that maybe the opponent isn't ready for, and crazy upsets happen like we saw this past Saturday.
All right, last night there was more action in the Big 12 on the hardwood. So season openers for teams that did not open the season on Tuesday, yeah.
On Monday.
Thank
they
you.
Played Tuesday, which was last night.
Yeah, thank you. What day is it?
Wednesday, I believe.
Got it. All right, there we go. Texas Tech knocked off Lindenwood. Christian Anderson, welcome, come on down. 34 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds. This thing was somewhat close early, but Nolan Groves, and we'll get to him in a moment as we talk other freshmen for Texas Tech. He had 16 rebounds in his debut, and Texas Tech was plus 16 on the boards. Also, transfer from UNC Greensboro, Donovan Atwell had 22 points, including 6 made threes for Texas Tech last night.
It's nuts. Like, I look at this box score, and I'm like, who's Donovan Atwell? Like, he wasn't even one of the top 3 or 4 transfers we were talking about coming into the season for Texas Tech, and he goes off for 6 threes. JT Toppin didn't even play.
Yeah, Tech missed a bunch of guys, 4 front court players, including Toppin.
Which this is really similar to how they started last season, when it was Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, and they had several guys that were expected to be starters that were missing practice time, and maybe they were playing in games, but they weren't 100%. The thing about the Big 12, and Anderson's a perfect example because he goes off for 34. Like, this league is set up so strong to be really good again in the month of March, in the NCAA tournament, because it's so guard heavy. Like, you think about Christian Anderson, Darren Peterson at Kansas, Richie Saunders at BYU. DeBonce is kind of a tweener. He can play all over, but he's not necessarily a guard first guy. Milos Uzan and Emmanuel Sharp. Then you talk about Jaden Bradley at Arizona, even Taman Lipsey and PJ Haggerty at Iowa State and K-State. Like, the guards in this league, the ones that take over games in the NCAA tournament, Those are the type of players in this conference that can make deep runs come March.
Yeah, another one of those would be West Virginia and Mount St. Mary's. The Mountaineers of West Virginia get the win over Mount St. Mary's Mountaineers, the rare Mountaineer matchup here. Jasper Floyd with 25 points, 9 of 13 shooting. Also had 5 steals. Kansas State, you're wearing your Wildcats sweatshirt. Look, they offensively looked like a juggernaut. I mean, I know it's UNC Greensboro, but they could not keep up on offense. K-State scored 33 points in the first half and 60 in the second half. PJ Haggerty with 27 points. And Nate Johnson nearly notched a triple-double in the 93-64 win for the Wildcats.
Yeah, the first half wasn't great. Down by 1 at the break, but in the second half, they scored more points than K-State has ever scored in a half of basketball under Jerome Tang, and that includes the team that made it to the Elite Eight. So there was a lot to like. Like, PJ Haggerty is insane. He's just a walking bucket. So that's a great centerpiece to have for K-State. And then I thought Bashir, who hit 4 threes in the game and has a really nice mid-range game with 16. Nate Johnson went 6 for 7 from 3. K-State hasn't had a perimeter shooter that wasn't just a shooter in a really long time. Like, they've had guys that was kind of their specialty, like last year with Brendan Housen, but he wasn't a great defender. He didn't rebound at a high level.
Liability. Johnson
does it all. And then the German kid, Rapike, one of these international players, he had to play in this game that he only finished with 5 points. But one of his buckets, like, he pulls a rebound and he dribbles the ball up the floor, goes end to end, and finger rolls it in. He looks like a guard the way he handles it. He's really raw, but, like, K-State hasn't had those type of players the last 2 or 3 years. Guys that are going to come off the bench and can make plays like that.
Yeah, another freshman. Now, he's 21, so put freshman in quotes there.
Is he really 21?
He's 21. Kostic is actually a legit age freshman. Is that how you say it? Kostic? Andrej Kostic?
I think it's just Andre Kostic. Yeah, I believe.
Okay, well, he's 19, so he fits the bill. We'll get into that in a moment with this is the year of the freshman, clearly. Oklahoma State, Oral Roberts. This was also very tight in the first half, 50-46, and then Oklahoma State opened the second half on an 8-0 run, took control. Oklahoma State held Oral Roberts to 22% shooting in the second half. Oral Roberts hit just 6 of 27. Victorious Miller.
Baller.
21 points for Oklahoma State to lead the way. And then Oklahoma State got good bench scoring as well in that game. And then Arizona State knocks off Southern Utah. Elijah Duvall had 15 for Southern Utah.
Oklahoma State had 5 guys scoring double figures.
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time that has happened? Because they struggled to put the ball in the basket last season, and that's not going to be an issue for them. And with the system that Steve Lutz runs at Oklahoma State, man, I love that team. And Miller was a highly touted, like, McDonald's All-American kid out of high school, and at his previous stop, where I think he transferred from USC, he didn't get a lot of minutes, had some stuff with the coaching staff, and so this is a fresh start with him. And we've seen Steve Lutz, in a small sample size, do really good things with guys like that. Like Marcellus Avery last year was a guy that was in the doghouse a lot at UCF, and he transfers to Oklahoma State, and he put together a really nice season. Steve Lutz even convinced him to come off the bench because he was more effective that way. These Big 12 scores, like the first couple of nights, the blowouts have been blowouts. Like, that's the biggest takeaway for me, and they're not 70-45 or 70-58. Like, teams are scoring 80, 90, several teams over 100. The Big 12's legit.
Yeah, so the big piece is just the amount of freshmen that are going to play key, crucial roles in the Big 12. Like, we know about the Big 3, really Big 4 if you want to include Chris Sinak in there, but A.J. Debanza, Darren Peterson, Koa Pete, after what they did, Chris Sinak, and then Isaiah Harwell at Houston. I mean, those are 2 studs. Cole Rosario is another guy at Kansas that's an absolute stud as a freshman. I mean, Tech has 2 4-stars. One, Mario Alcantak, who started, and another who played 34 minutes off the bench in Nolan Groves. Nolan Groves is a 3-star, had 7 points and 16 rebounds last night for Tech as a true freshman. How about Isaiah Johnson, who's Dwayne Wade's godson? Dwayne Wade was sitting courtside for Colorado. I guess Wade was... one of his trainers was Chris Johnson, Isaiah's dad, and so he grew up with Dwayne Wade around. So Isaiah Johnson went off, and Colorado's got a bunch of freshmen that are going to play significant roles for them. And then we mentioned the international guys, Kostic at K-State, and then the 21-year-old true freshman, Rapik from Germany. Plus 2 kids of current or former NBA stars. Baylor has true freshman Andre Iguodala II.
Yeah.
We'll see if he plays much this year. And then Bryce James, of course, on Arizona's roster. We'll ask Tommy Lloyd how much he talks to LeBron as Bryce is on the Arizona Wildcats. So just a quick taste of how impactful freshmen will be across the Big 12 this year. This is the year of the freshmen.
Yeah, the Big 12 probably had collectively the best recruiting class as a conference, maybe all time, probably in the country. When you look at where these, I mean, I don't think there's any question that it was the best class in the country when you've got 5 of the top 11 prospects and 4 of the top 8 in this conference, and you've got a team that we both think is going to win the national championship this year in Houston. And they started 2 freshmen in their opener, which Kelvin Sampson doesn't like to do unless you're, just an incredible athlete, buy-in, culture, all the things that he looks for. And then even like a Ryan Crotty at Oklahoma State, you mentioned the 2 guys at K-State. Like there are teams that are expected to be middle of the pack. The Yesufu kid at Baylor that are going to be not necessarily carried by freshmen, but heavily impacted in a positive way by these young players in the best class in America.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. We've got Rich Rodriguez, West Virginia's football coach, after their big win against Houston, coming up next with James Amari. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, and you can watch us on Big 12 Studios.
It's Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us via Big 12 Studios. With Ari Timken, I'm James Westling. We're now super excited to welcome in West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez. What's up, Coach?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Man, we are probably not as good as you after that win. You guys looked really good. Went on the road, took down a top 25 team, 45-35. You win at Houston. Last time out, your quarterback gets Freshman of the Week honors. You had a defensive guy get Defensive Player of the Week. An all-around effort. What was your main takeaway?
Winning sure to hell beats losing. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. But our guys I'm proud of the way they hung in there. We've been struggling a little bit, and at moments it was some bad luck. Whether it's quarterback injuries, what have you. But I really like the way we've practiced the last couple of weeks. And practice has been good all year, but the last 2 weeks, we intentionally tried to amp up the competitiveness a little bit, and they responded well in practice, and it showed in the game.
I'm curious for the quarterback situation. We saw Scotty Fox play really well. This is a guy that first time he entered a game, I think he threw 2 interceptions in 3 plays. So, tell me as a coach how you're coaching him up, and kind of how he's stuck with it this season after having such a bad debut.
Yeah, it was tough to throw him in there where we threw him in there. In the injury part, I've had this happen one time to me in my career when I was back at Arizona that we had 3 quarterbacks go down and we were playing the 4th and 5th guy, and so we didn't obviously anticipate that. Bobby thought Scotty might be redshirting this year, but he got thrust into the role. And to his credit, everything, he's a very conscientious guy. He got better every day in practice. The more reps he got, the better he got. And the arm talent was always there. I mean, you could see he had next level type of arm talent. He just was like a true freshman, still learning. And again, he played really well, I think, the last couple of weeks. And there's been some freshman moments. But I love his competitiveness. I think he's getting more and more confidence every day, not just every week, but every day. And that's a good thing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, with all your quarterback injuries, and you lose Jaheim White early in the year, your preseason all-league running back, and then Jamori Robinson can't get cleared, and that, I'm sure, slowed his growth and development this season. All the unforeseen circumstances, I don't think anybody saw this past weekend coming. So, what does it say about your culture, the buy-in that you've gotten from this team, and just the little things you can take away from this season?
Yeah, with all the stuff, the bad luck or what have you, not playing well, that was happening. To our guys, I told them, I said, you kind of, like all coaches, you block out what's happening outside, and how are we doing things inside? Are we continuing to get better? Are we working hard? And I told our players before the last game, I said, your version of playing hard and the coach's version might not be matched up. And we've talked about that since August, that there's a different level of playing hard, and that includes coming off the ball better. And so we worked on that all week. Said we're at least going to come off the ball with a little more purpose, run with a little bit more conviction, and it did that in practice. But they need to do it in the game, and they did. And I said, then the hard part is to keep doing it. It's a natural tendency in life to be average. Everybody gravitates to average, and you have to fight that every day. Eventually when our culture is completely sunk in, then I'll never have to worry about that. The only guys I have to teach that to is the 20, 25 new guys. Right now, they're all new. And so we're having to teach that every day, and it's taking a little bit longer maybe than I wanted, and it's still a work in progress, but eventually you'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I love it. How do you do that? What are the ways in which you instill that as a value of the program?
Well, it's pretty simple like this. I told the coaching staff, and I told the players too, there's never a play, whether it's a Tuesday practice or obviously a game, where one of our guys is either lazy or soft, that it doesn't get addressed. You can't let him loaf on one play and say, oh, okay, the rest of the plays he was okay. Or you can't let him be soft on one play and say, oh, okay, he was just soft on that play. That's like the ultimate no-no. It's worse than anything you could do. We say if you loaf and you're a traitor, you play for the other team because you ain't playing with 11. So that part of it is always something you have to preach to establish your culture. But again, it takes longer these days maybe than before, but it still can be done.
Man, that line, everybody gravitates to average. You have to fight that every day. I love that. Where did you come up with that? Was that through your own personal experiences that you kind of came up with that, or did you learn that through a mentor? Where does that stem from?
No, I guess when I was the youngest head college coach in America at age 24 and the youngest at age 25 that's fired, you learn a certain thing. But, everybody has different levels of competitiveness. The greatest of all time, the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants, Larry Birds, those guys, they were not ultra competitive. The Tom Brady's, they're ultra competitive. And that's why they have success. Well, maybe not everybody's wired like that, but all these young kids I know are competitive. They play video games, whatever. I said, so we have to foster that as coaches. We got to appeal to their competitiveness. And if you're a competitor, you don't ever want to be called average. You don't want to be in the middle of the pack. You want to be in the front. You won't, losing is like, fate worse than death in a lot of ways. And I know I'm kind of going over the top with that, but that's what we have to foster to create the culture that we need to have here.
Yeah, and is that like, obviously there's team successes and certainly you want to get to a certain threshold of wins and get to a bowl game and win a conference championship. Those are all there, but like when it comes to the realities of this year for you guys, is like that how you measure success? Is finishing strong, getting buy-in, evaluating players based on their ability to continue to pull on the rope?
It's playing as hard as you can possibly play in every opportunity you get. And that's whether it's a Tuesday practice or a Saturday game, what have you. That's what we're looking for from our players. And the same thing with our staff. We've got to obviously put our guys in a position to have success, but we also got to make sure that culture is seeping in. And even when we were losing, I wasn't panicking because I didn't see a whole lot of the loafing or the softness. But I saw too much. One of it's too much. I saw too much of it, and so I appealed to our guys the last couple weeks. I was like, this guy's, no matter what happens in the game, these are the non-negotiables, and you have to keep reminding them that. So is it harder nowadays to establish a culture than 20 years ago? It probably is, because you got more free agents, so to speak, and,
right.
Guys getting paid, whatever. But I'm convinced it still can be done. And I work on it every day more than anything else that we do.
Talking with Rich Rod, the head coach at West Virginia. And, Coach, you've now coached 6 games in the Big 12 at West Virginia. I'm curious your thoughts on the Big 12 and how it compares to like when you were at Arizona or when you were at West Virginia and you guys were in the Big East. What has impressed you about the league, and is it about what you thought it would be, or is it tougher?
It is, and I knew it was going to be a quarterback-strong league this year with some of the quarterbacks we had, and great skill people. It does remind me quite a bit of my first early years in the Pac-12 when it was so many great quarterbacks in the Pac-12 back then in the 2012 to 17, wherever that was. There was a lot of great skill players. I'm talking about next-level quarterbacks that are still playing in the NFL. That's where the Big 12 is right now. I mean, outside conference teams are finding out, and you play the Big 12 teams, they got people that can score. They got quarterbacks that can do it. So it's a really good league. I knew that. And we knew it was going to be, we'd have some tough moments. But I'm 100% convinced now, having gone through just most of the season with it, that we could compete for a championship. We just got to fix some of our problems sooner rather than later, and then make sure our guys that are in our program now that are going to still be in our program, that we develop them better than anybody in the country.
Are you still as involved from an offensive standpoint as you've ever been in terms of game planning, play calling, et cetera?
Yeah, every bit of it. They're calling the plays. I'm involved in special teams as far as knowing what we're doing. I don't call or do anything with our defense other than I know what we're doing. And I think I have other coaches that can do it. And I tell the coaches, if I get pulled out of it too much where I can't sit in the meetings, watch the film, evaluate the game plan, all that, then I know I got to turn it over. But I'm making time to do that, and I still enjoy doing it. But I got other guys on the staff that could call plays for sure.
We asked you about Scotty Fox earlier. Who does he remind you of? Like when you think about his potential and how good he could be down the road, does he remind you of any guys that you've coached or coached against in terms of his skill set and what he has?
Yeah, he's very unique from the standpoint he's a true freshman that's getting thrust into this role. I'm trying to think what quarterbacks I've had some quarterbacks in the past that that had the arm talent at Arizona. At West Virginia, had guys that could throw, but they were faster runners from that standpoint. But Scotty he's a good athlete that can run, but he can make all the throws. He's got next level arm talent, And he's, the one thing about it is he, like a lot of times when you take a transfer quarterback, they can fit in around us, but they probably have learned different systems, different ways of doing things. And so you almost have to, I say unteach it, but teach this is the way we do it. Well, Scotty's got no other kind of habits other than so when we tell him to do it, that's what he's growing from. So that's what's so neat about his upside is that he's going to, we told him one thing, hey, this is the drop, this is the timing on this route package. That's the only way he knows how to do it. And so you could kind of grow from there. And I'm seeing that now with him, and he'll keep getting better.
You shared a really funny story about Scotty at the end of the game on Saturday on your radio show this week. I'm hoping you could share it with us now. Basically,
we're taking a knee now. Like that's the easiest play in football, right? You just take a knee. But I'm going there. Make sure you don't pull out too soon. Make sure you ride the ball. Take a knee right away. Make sure the official sees that. And I'm going on about it. And Scotty goes, Coach, we're making this way too complicated. It's not that big of a deal. I know how to take a knee. And I'm like, that's what a fifth-year veteran would tell you. Like, Coach, shut up. We got this. Don't worry about it. So that was fun to watch.
Oh, that's amazing, Coach. Man, when I look at, I know the wins and losses this season aren't probably, they're not what you wanted to be. But with everything you guys have gone through, you guys remind me a little bit of Arizona State when Dillingham got there, and it took 2 years for them to get to where they wanted to be. And same thing with BYU, their first year in this league, they win 5 games, then they have 11 last year. You guys beat Pitt, you beat your rival, backyard brawl, you got a top 25 road win. How would you summarize this season with kind of everything that's taken place so far?
Yeah, I would like to think that very rarely are you going to have where your top 3 quarterbacks are out and you go to your 4th guy. You never thought you'd get to that point. And then your top 2 running backs, you're good. You got to back up. Your top running back gets 150 yards against Pitt, and he's out. So you lose your top 2 running backs, and then your best wide receivers out in the second game of the year. So it just doesn't happen that often by the second or third game. So it's unique, and hopefully our bad luck, if that's what you want to call it, bad luck is gone from that standpoint. But I still think, in every year or your first year, we have to do everything we can to establish the type of environment and culture that we're going to build our program from. And that has to be non-negotiable. No matter what bad luck or whatever happens, we got to make sure that happens. And so to our staff and to my players' credit, there's nobody hanging their heads. They came to work, got a little bit better. We still got some big challenges left ahead, but you could feel it taking place. Now we got a lot of things to fix, and we're going to start fixing it, as soon as the signing date comes in December. But, it's been a good group to coach.
I remember asking you at media days about, what's different maybe this time around. And I'm curious, now that we're a few months removed from that, you played games, what's different about Morgantown? What's different about West Virginia football than the last time you were there?
Well, the difference is just with college football in general. I mean, you got 120 guys and I got 120 free agents. Can you imagine being an NFL team and, instead of having 7 or 8 free agents, you're deciding whether to re-sign or trade. Your whole roster is that. And so it's a little different dynamic as far as building the program. But as I tell the coaches, the goalposts to move, you got to move with it. You can sit there and complain or you can do something about it. So I said, ain't no doing it any good to complain. This is what it is. Let's learn from our mistakes this year. Let our players learn from the mistakes. Let's keep coaching the way we're coaching, keep demanding the way we're demanding. And eventually it'll get to the point where we don't have bad luck. We got the roster we need. Our coaches will know what the heck we're doing, and we're going to win a lot of games. And I still believe that's where we're headed.
Coach, your offenses are always evolving. They're so creative. I follow this coach on Twitter, and he's always posting, innovative highlight reel stuff. And he's got a clip of you guys running this double wing bash quarterback counter that you're running against Houston. Do you just sit in a lab all summer and come up with these new plays? What goes into all of this?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's it's so much easier now to be creative because all you got to do is get on the internet, and there's so many more creative people out there, coaches in high school level, whatever. I'm like, damn, that looks like a pretty good play. Can we do that, and does it fit what we do? You know what I mean? And then I think we've never been afraid to try something that's new, if it makes sense. I want to be it simple, but if it's something that's easy to teach that can create a conflict and our guys can execute, then I don't care if somebody else didn't do that. Let's try it ourselves. You know what I mean? And everybody says, "Why do you run the quarterback?" And I say, "Because he can." You know what I mean? When you tell me you can't run him, then we won't run him. You know what I mean? So it's I'm not a I don't prescribe to the theory that we have to do what's always been done, but I also don't want to be so stubborn that if you can't, you got to be able to make changes if you got to make changes, and look at other ideas.
Yeah, I don't think you could be coaching today if you aren't able to be multiple and not be too stubborn. I think the stubborn coaches that we all grew up playing for, watching, like they've expired because you have to be multiple. You have to be able to change.
Can you imagine if you had 5 different quarterbacks? Because we rep 5 different quarterbacks at the starting position during practice. Four different ones starting. So you imagine like, oh, this is the way they all have to do that. I mean, you'd really be screwed.
That's insane. Coach, what do you think about all these guys getting canned mid-season? Like it's crazy how many openings there are.
Yeah, I don't remember it ever I know there's been happening before, but this many this soon?
No, it hasn't.
I think it is somebody mentioned it's a product of the NIL era and the pro type of model that, there's a lot of big money people that are giving a lot of money, and all of a sudden before they would get a statue or a plaque or a building named after them. No, now they're only, reward is wins, right? And so if they're giving a lot of money and they ain't getting the wins, they get upset, and who they're going to blame it on? They're going to blame it on that coach. So it's
so true.
It's a little disheartening. I mean, we all know it. We signed up for it, but it's also harder now to develop a culture than it's ever been. So people say, well, you can do it quicker because you can get more free agents. You can build the talent quicker, but the culture takes longer, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so, it's kind of hitting there, and we all know when we signed up for it, but it does seem like for some of the folks that, in my opinion, they got fired, there was a little bit of lack of patience. And if they would have let it go for a little bit longer, let's see how it's going to happen.
Yep, man, we feel the same way. Totally agree. Well, you can see the growth and the progress already in year one under your leadership back at West Virginia. So thanks for popping on with you, and we wish you the best of luck. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
Rich Rodriguez, the head coach at West Virginia. They get ready for Colorado this weekend. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
Along with James Wesley, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. A reminder that you can check out all the platforms in which you can watch Big 12 Studios by going to big12studios.com. Big 12 Studios is available on your Roku device, Amazon Prime Video, DirecTV Stream, YouTube, and plenty more. Check out big12studios.com to find out all the places you can get Big 12 Studios. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Just heard from Rich Rodriguez. Thought we could talk a little bit about Big 12 coaching right now. And I guess first, James, your thoughts on what we just heard there from Rich Rod.
I mean, Rich Rod is 62 years old. And hearing him talk about this new age of college football just solidifies to me that in no way, shape, or form has the game passed him by. And he is still very new age, very innovative. And I think this season for West Virginia has, in a lot of ways, really laid the foundation for this Rich Rod 2.0 era that I think over time is going to be very successful. Like coming into this season, if you had told me that you could make a case that West Virginia's been battered more than anybody else in the league by injuries, and with a first-year coaching staff, you know that you're not going to have the depth that some of these other teams have, like an Arizona State, like a Texas Tech, when key guys go down. So the fact that they've won 3 games and who they've been against is what I look at more than anything else. Like beating your rival Pitt, who we already noted earlier is in the first college football playoff rankings that were revealed last night, going on the road and taking down a top 25 team that was ranked at the time in Houston in their backyard. Those are wins that you can really hang your hat on in year one. Even if they lose out, and they play Colorado at home this weekend, which is a game that on paper they should probably have a really good chance to win.
Love how you stopped yourself from saying probably win.
Probably have a really good chance to win. Because when you've had so many injuries, no game is a gimme,
right,
by any means. Right. They could easily lose out.
When you have 3 wins, yeah.
Right. But when you've been through everything they've been through this season, and you still have some things to build on, and you're still competing, like there's no doubt in my mind that football team believes in him and his process. And watch out for them next year, because in a lot of ways there are parallels between Arizona State, their first year under Dillingham, Houston last year, their first year under Willie Fritz, and they're now 7-2. I see signs that they're going to be good down the road.
Yeah, I mean, not all 3-win teams are created equal, right? I mean, there's 3-win teams that are unwatchable. There's 3-win teams that have no momentum. I think with West Virginia and West Virginia fans, and cheers to you, West Virginia fans, for hanging on throughout this season. You are the full-time fan. Brought to you by Modelo, of course. Grab some Modelos for West Virginia fans. We know they need them. There's a lot of forward momentum here for this program, and there's a lot to like with Scotty Fox potentially emerging as a true freshman quarterback here for the future of this program. When you look at how bare the talent was for the amount of players that left the program that they're shuttling through, I think I love your comp with Arizona State because the wins may not be piling up, but they're building something towards next year, which you could hit it in the transfer portal. Who knows about recruiting? There's not all 3-win teams are created equal, and we'll see how many they end up with when the season's over. But there's a lot of things to like about West Virginia moving forward into next season based on what they've done throughout this season.
And he's back home in his home state where he was born and raised, where he spent most of his coaching career, where he played at West Virginia back in the 80s. Started his coaching career in 85 as a student assistant. And then he cut his teeth coaching at NAIA and Division II schools in the state of West Virginia. So what that means to me is that Wren Baker is going to give him time to build a program. And West Virginia's not hurting because, to your point, they're selling more alcohol than any other team in the Big 12 at home games. Fans are still showing up. They're still buying into West Virginia football.
Cheers, Modelo. Cheers, full-time fans.
So they are full-time fans.
Yeah.
And next year you look for growth. And then year 3 is usually when the breakout occurs, if it's going to happen at these particular schools. But a lot of times with all these coaches getting fired mid-season, administrations aren't willing to wait until year 3 or year 4. And at West Virginia, they're going to be a little bit more patient because it's him, as long as there are major signs of development and growth And this year in year one, I think has been a great foundational season for them with all these young players and what next year is going to look like.
That's James Westling on social at James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports. We've got Kalani Sitake, the head football coach for BYU, coming up in less than an hour from now. And in just over an hour, we'll talk with Tommy Lloyd, the Arizona coach. And I want to touch on Kalani Sitake because there's really interesting stuff that I want to ask him about in terms of the things that make him different, because there's a lot that makes him different and unique, and love telling those stories from a Big 12 perspective, because that's a big part of what we do here is tell stories about the players, administrators, and coaches in the Big 12. Before we do that, though, as we talk coaches here, one coach has already been fired out of the Big 12, which is Mike Gundy. We think there's another coach on the hot seat in Dave Aranda. What's your feeling now on the Aranda situation at Baylor?
Man, I think right now, if the season ended today, that he would probably be dismissed. And I think setting wins and losses aside, the fans in Waco, there just isn't that excitement level that there used to be. And I think in this world of college football, where the voice of the fan and the student carries a lot of weight, they're not filling the stadium. People are leaving at halftime, even in games that are competitive, like the K-State game, because their expectation for this season was that Baylor would be competing for a Big 12 championship and maybe even a college football playoff berth. I mean, they were a team that was preseason ranked in the top 25 of a lot of way too early college football polls. And so when you do look at the performance on the field, sure, you can make a case that it's been good and there are good things and there are positive takeaways, but it's been way below the expectations that they have at Baylor, because Baylor believes it's a top 2, top 3 job in the Big 12. And this is year 4 of mediocrity for Baylor. I mean, he's 34 and 32 is his record since that Big 12 championship game appearance. That just isn't going to cut it at that program. And so if I'm setting the over-under right now for Big 12 coach openings this offseason, I've got it at 2.5. We know there's one at Oklahoma State. Is there going to be a second one at Baylor? And is there maybe going to be a third opening where somebody leaves a Big 12 school for one of these other jobs that are out there? So over-under 2.5 as we sit here today.
I mean, I would take the under. I agree with you. I think Aranda is going to be out. I mean, I don't know that Mac Rhodes is evaluating this on a week-by-week basis. I think...
Well, yeah, he's got college football playoff stuff to be dealing with.
He's way more involved in that, I'm sure, than what's happening in the minutia on the campus there at Waco. I mean, he's 36 and 34 overall as head coach. He's lost 10 straight versus top 25 opponents at Baylor since 2021. I think the further away we get from the Big 12 championship season that was magical for Baylor, the more we realize this is kind of who he is as a head coach. You could argue, and I know Baylor fans have, that these are Matt Rule's players that he won with in terms of the Big 12 championship in 21. And I think, ultimately, it's the momentum and the thing you touched on. It's never been more important for fan buy-in, because fans are supporting a program that's trying to bring in talent through the support that the fans bring. And not just the fans, but obviously the boosters who are also fans. The money. So ultimately, no matter what the wins and losses are and what you want to argue and whatever, clearly there is a lot of apathy amongst fans at Baylor, and that's reason enough that it's time to move on from Dave Aranda.
I mean, you have an NFL quarterback in Sawyer Robertson. You have probably an NFL running back in Bryson Washington, who coming into the season was preseason the best back in the Big 12. You brought in 13 transfers who were supposed to be impactful, depth, plug-and-play at some position guys defensively from a defense that brought 9 starters back from last year's team, a team that was 8-4 going into your bowl game. So 5-4 with all of that just isn't quite good enough. And I think the worst-case scenario for Baylor is in terms of their future, let's say they win out. Let's say they beat Utah this weekend and take down the Utes on ESPN2, a primetime spot at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Say they finish 8-4. Well, then you're in the exact same position you were coming into this season. How many more years of that without a massive breakthrough to a Big 12 championship game or even being in the conversation is it going to take?
Well, and that was this year, I think, right? I mean, I agree with you. Like, the momentum built for this season to be the year that you took the next step, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. All right, as we talk coaches in the Big 12, Kalani Sitake will join us coming up, and there's a really interesting piece from The Athletic that was written about Sitake from Christopher Camrani. I would encourage people to read it. And some of it is stuff we will talk about with Kalani Sitake coming up here at the top of the hour.
Spoiler alert, we may have talked to him yesterday afternoon, or we're changing clothes during commercial breaks.
One of these things might be true.
One or the other.
But, I mean, it's great to uncover some of the stories of the people within the Big 12 in a way that maybe nationally we don't get that perspective. And I think Kalani, like, so number one, and he talked to us about this, like, so much of what he learned as a coach, especially in terms of, like, player empowerment and autonomy, these were all things amazingly that he learned from his head coach, Lavelle Edwards. When you think about what Edwards did, and this was years ago, it's very much front and center for a lot of coaches in the modern world. You have to empower players. I don't think, back in the day of Lavelle Edwards, that many coaches were empowering players. It was more like whatever I say goes, and you follow and listen. So I think that part of it is really interesting. I mean, Sitake told us there's a book by Daniel Pink, which is a really good book, titled Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. And in it, he said, like, so much of the motivational tactics that Lavelle Edwards used are the same things that Daniel Pink wrote years later in this book that are important motivators of success for coaches and leaders, which is incredible to think about. Like, that's how far ahead of his time Lavelle Edwards was. We know from, like, an offensive standpoint, Lavelle Edwards was super, super ahead of his time and is influential and continues to be influential in both college and the NFL based on the players that played among him that are now coaches. But, like, it's the other stuff, to me, that's incredible that Lavelle Edwards was doing far ahead of his time, James.
They call Kalani Sitake a minister of joy at BYU. And that's what he is. Like, he's pretty mild-mannered and soft-spoken, and so he's not one of these big rah-rah college football coaches that are going to be out there in the national media. And sure, he'll come on and chat with you anytime you want, but he's not clickbait. He just goes about his business. And I love this emotional intelligence and empathy that he brings to the table. He's not afraid to hug his players and celebrate with fans and creates those moments, those daily joyful moments. And then his football team goes out and plays vicious, violent. They hit, they smack you in the mouth, they run the football. So his old school fullback, which is the position he played, pedigree, shows out and shows up
right
on Saturdays on the field, and then behind closed doors, he's leaned into this AMP philosophy, which is autonomy, players helping shape the practice schedule and voice their opinions in meetings, and then mastery is the M, the growth mindset, just the pursuit of getting better, which says a lot about tying into the BYU culture, and then purpose, where everybody's always working towards a bigger goal and something bigger than themselves. And whatever that may be, a college football playoff berth on the field, but I think it's so much more off the field that it is very new age. But we don't think of Kalani Sitake as a new age coach because we watch them on Saturdays and they're old school, bam, we're going to hit you and see how you react.
The article in The Athletic we're referencing here, written by Kamrani, is titled, There's No Leader in College Football Like BYU's Kalani Sitake. One story explains why. And so, I mean, the piece talks about a lot of different things, like his leadership style, like we were just talking about, but also about his upbringing and about how his parents divorced when he was 6 and that he lived with his dad as a single dad as they kind of traveled around the country, Tom Sitake, looking for work for Tom. And, I mean, Kalani comes from nothing. I mean, they moved to Provo, and that's where he spent a good amount of his childhood, in Provo, Utah. And, he tells a story, and this is the story that Kamrani's referring to. He said, quote, Kalani says, he had nothing. I think we had nothing. I think we had a box of oranges delivered to our front porch, talking about on Christmas. My dad never shied away from being honest with us about what we had and what we didn't. We were super happy. It was cold. We went for a drive. We didn't have anything but a full tank of gas. And then he writes, they looked at Christmas lights across the city. Tom played the Temptations Christmas card album. He and the kids each had parts to sing. And so for the rest of the night, the Satakis drove around Provo and belted out songs together. He says it's one of the most memorable Christmases he's ever had. A mental postcard of pure shared joy delivered perfectly because everyone did their part. Quote, we had hungry bellies, but full souls.
Man, that is a remarkable story. I mean, that pulls at your heartstrings hearing that about his childhood, and also the importance of fathers and creating those memories and those joyful moments, even though they didn't have anything financially. That's what Kalani Sitake took away from his childhood, and that's what he's brought to his football team. Like, they may not have, I mean, they're doing fine right now on NIL and resources, but they were behind the eight ball a decade ago in terms of facilities. They have a really cool stadium that sits in the mountains, but like, this is a team that didn't even have a conference. They were an independent. They were in the Mountain West. They were struggling to put together 7, 8, 9-win seasons, and now they've just exploded. They have the resources, but that joy piece, that father-like mentality that he brings to the table, all that is still rooted in BYU football.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because we'll talk with Kalani about, like, they have karaoke every Thursday or sing-alongs every Thursday, so it harkens back to his good memories in the car there of singing along with his family. But the other thing is, and this is the most important part of the piece, and this is what really guides his program, is control what you can control.
Yep.
There's plenty of things outside your control, like when he grew up without much money, but they still had joy in that house and love in that house. And, to your point, like, this is the end result of all the things that Kalani went through when BYU was toiling outside of a power conference. And it felt like every road was a dead end for them. They couldn't get in anywhere, and they couldn't be substantiated with a power conference designation. And so that's all part of the mentality that Kalani Sitake has as a coach and as a leader of a program. Control the controllables. And he did that. And even when it looked very dreary and unlikely to happen, joining a Power 5 conference, it happened because of the mentality of and work ethic of Kalani Sitake and the leadership of him. I mean, they write that no matter what, you can control how well you do in school and how you decide to greet each day, every morning, that nothing worth fighting for can be obtained operating solo, that humility will always prevail over ego, kindness isn't a form of weakness, and true happiness isn't measured by what's in your bank account or even by empty rows of your refrigerator. It's everything that's inside your own heart.
Control what's in your power. Man, I love that. And that's why, like, he's one of those coaches that when he says, we don't pay a ton of attention to where we're ranked and what others say about us outside of the BYU family, I believe him.
Yeah.
Like, this is a team that's going to control what they can control. Win or lose this Saturday, they're going to prepare for their next game. And that's why BYU is also a team that you never hear the term trap game when it comes to BYU football. They're going to be dialed in regardless of opponent. They're going to prepare the same way with that same amount of effort and family and fellowship and kindness and all the things that makes BYU football such a joy, to use the words that Kalani Sitake references several times. Like, they just control what they can control. They got told back in 2011 no by the Big 12, and it didn't deter them in any way. They find a kid in the recruiting trail by the name of Zach Wilson. They win 10 or 11 games. He's a top 5 NFL draft pick. They put themselves on the map nationally. They're in the Big 12. They go 5-7 and then 11-2, and now they're 8-0 in year 3.
And now setting up for a game in which BYU and Texas Tech are the talk of college football, something that would have never happened had BYU not been able to join the Big 12.
Yeah.
It really is incredible how full circle it is. Let's preview the BYU-Texas Tech game, a top 10 matchup in Lubbock next. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. We are listened on TuneIn and the TuneIn app, and you can watch us on Big 12 Studios. Along with James Westlake, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Radio. We are presented by the Full-Time Fan at Modelo.
I just jumped out of my shoes. I was not prepared for that.
Sorry.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
He was making sure you were awake.
I am very awake.
I mean, how can you hear that beat and not just scream mustard at the top of your lungs? You know?
I've never heard it and not think to scream mustard. So, yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, who doesn't scream
Only
mustard?
thing that's missing from your fit today is a little mustard color.
If you remember correctly, we did our show from Arlington at Globe Life Field Park.
Globe Life Field, the new one.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Damon.
You're welcome.
Really should create a greater distinction between those two. At any rate, Globe Life Field, and remember it was early in the morning, and so there were games going on, but there was like nobody there. 9 o'clock in the morning to watch baseball. Mm-hmm. And I screamed mustard.
Yes, you did.
When that song played.
And I had the same reaction.
And so did the players on the field.
Yeah. Yes, they did. You're probably a reason why. Who got up? Somebody got upset in that first game.
Yeah. No, that was it. It was the mustard.
It was the mustard shout.
And I think I heard that post game. One of the coaches was like,
Section
yeah,
213.
Some weirdo screamed mustard.
Somebody's yelling mustard, and we're wearing yellow, and I'm confused.
They're
selling hot dogs.
Somebody was definitely like, this guy.
This guy.
This guy.
All right. This week on Tune In, we've got 2 Big 12 games of the week, including the game of the week in the Big 12 and in college football, which is the College Game Day game, which will be on 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon on ABC. You can also catch the broadcast as part of Big 12 Radio on Tune In. BYU at Texas Tech, undefeated BYU, 1 loss Texas Tech. 2 top 10 teams in the college ball playoff rankings. Should be a doozy. We also have Kansas at Arizona on TuneIn, which you can catch on ESPN2, as you're seeing on your screen, at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern time. That is the Bowl Eligibility Bowl between 2 5-win teams looking for one more to get to bowl eligible after both teams were not bowl eligible last season. But as we continue to preview the game of the season so far in the Big 12, with BYU and Texas Tech, I mean, number one, as we talked about earlier, Texas Tech finally ranked in the college football playoff rankings for the first time ever. They were the last holdout of the Big 12 teams to not get ranked so far, so that was kind of a shocker. And I mentioned this earlier. I think, like, from a college football playoff standpoint, this game's more important to Tech, which sounds weird because Tech is higher ranked and has the better resume right now. But Tech has the one conference loss. BYU does not, as they had no losses. And I mean, Tech, if they lose here, they join the grouping of 2 lost teams and have to figure out the tiebreaker, trying to get themselves back into the college in the Big 12 playoff or the Big 12 title race. Whereas with BYU, they still would have room for error a little bit there. So Tech needs to avoid that second conference loss because otherwise they're in a grouping of teams fighting for their Big 12 title lives.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the overarching why this game is so important. I think just to have this stage and this platform and back-to-back weeks with ESPN College Game Day being on a Big 12 campus, it's massive. And this is the first Big 12 top 10 matchup since 2021, where both teams are ranked in the top 10. I mean, it's been a minute, and that was Oklahoma State and Baylor in the conference championship game. So it's massive for so many reasons. And I think that the contrasting styles of play on paper, because Texas Tech doesn't get enough credit for how physical they are at the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. We think Texas Tech, and it's burnt into our brains, Cliff Kingsbury and Mike Leach and B.J. Simmons and Patrick Mahomes and offense. But the defense is top 10 in just about every statistical category. But on the other side, you've got a really physical, dominant BYU, top 20 scoring defense in the country. There are so many, turnover things where BYU's top 10 nationally. They've got 12 interceptions, multiple pick sixes this season. They control the clock. They dominate time of possession. They do it on the ground. And can BYU sustain success in the trenches with their rushing game? I mean, 216 rushing yards per game. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, and we're deep enough into the season that, like, these stats aren't just because of who Texas Tech has played.
Right.
Okay, their rushing defense is legit. Teams are only averaging 74 rushing yards per game. They have the number 1 rushing defense in the country. So, like, it's a clash of strength on strength and also a clash of contrasting offensive styles for how these teams want to move the football.
Yeah, and we talked yesterday as we previewed this game about that pace difference, whereas Texas Tech runs very fast pace. They're top 10 of the country in pace. BYU's bottom 10 of the country in pace. But I think what you hit on there is probably the most important aspect of this game and probably a big reason why Texas Tech is favored as they are because of that rush defense. Because BYU, can they have success if they're unable to run the ball? We don't know because we haven't really seen it yet this year. They've been so effective running the football. Now, my feeling is LJ Martin will play, which should be a huge boost, obviously, to BYU's rush attack. I mean, if he doesn't play, it'd be very difficult to think of a situation in which BYU could upset Texas Tech here. Now, we'll find out when the player availability report is released later today, LJ Martin's status, but the latest updates from reporters around Provo were, he's been practicing, so that's a good sign. But that front seven of Texas Tech, it is so good. I mean, David Bailey, we talk about his pass rushing ability, but him against the run, he is very good. And Jacob Rodriguez, their linebacking core is so good at cleaning everything up. And it goes back to they've got a really good front that allows for linebackers to run free, and that in part is what has led to Texas Tech's such effective rush defense. The question is, have they played a rush offense quite like this? And that's where, again, if BYU is able to run on Texas Tech to the tune of 150 yards, if they're able to double the output of what Tech is allowing per game on average this season, BYU puts itself in really good position to win this football game.
Definitely. And I anticipate a relatively low-scoring game like Texas Tech and Arizona State was, like BYU and Utah was. And the player availability report comes out in 23 minutes from where we sit right now live on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. The LJ Martin piece is massive, definitely, for BYU because he's one of the nation's leaders in yards after contact. So you can hit him, and he still is going to he's going to turn a 2-yard gain into a 4-yard gain, a 4-yard gain into a 6 or 7-yard gain. So having him out there for BYU is massive. Two other pieces I look at, special teams I think is basically a wash. Both teams are really good. BYU and Texas Tech both have high-level top 5 kickers in this conference. Stone Harrington for Texas Tech is the reigning Big 12 Special Teams Co-Player of the Week. Parker Kingston is dynamic in the return game for BYU. Texas Tech is the nation's leader in blocked kicks and blocked punts. That's a thing that could swing a game in terms of momentum. But also, like Texas Tech's offense, they didn't, they had a solid game against Kansas State, but the offense wasn't the reason Texas Tech won that football game. It was the defense and the takeaways and complementary football and cashing in on those takeaways. And David Bailey was in Avery Johnson's grill and had him flustered. Can David Bailey and the Texas Tech pass rush, which they lead the nation in sacks, get to Bear Bachmeier, who doesn't run a lot of straight dropbacks? Like the passing game for BYU is very creative to get him out in space in a run-pass option. And then BYU, they're plus 11 this season in sack margin. So they're not getting sacked a lot on offense, and they're getting to opposing quarterbacks. And the way they hit defensively, the Texas Tech offensive line is going to have a really strong game to keep Baron Morton upright because the physicality from BYU is at the level of a Utah or a Kansas State. Some of these games where Baron Morton has been rattled because of the hits that he's taken. He played very well against K-State, but there were a couple of hits where I'm like, man, I don't know how that kid's getting up, which says a lot about his toughness. So there are so many things that line up for this to be a banger on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think I would imagine the approach for BYU is going to be a lot of misdirection. They want to get Bear Bachmeier out in space, and they probably want to use Texas Tech's aggression on defense against them. Here's what Joey McGuire said about how defensively they plan on attacking Texas Tech.
It's going to be interesting. We got to make sure that he knows he's in a football game. We say it every week, though, to every quarterback. You've got to make quarterbacks uncomfortable by the physicality of the game. It's going to be a little bit like your playing against Jacob Rodriguez whenever he played quarterback and played Wildcat quarterback at Virginia. I mean, he's a load. I'm really impressed with him though. With his he's got this ability to. It's almost like a little hop, and he kind of slides. That you think you're going to be able to tackle him low, and he kind of just hops over you. And so we're going to have to go do a good job of tackling him, and not only just tackling him, but tackling him high and game tackling. We've got to put a bunch of people there because he is a load. I mean, that's one thing. If you look at their 2D, this is a big football team. Like they're not only just at the running back and the quarterback position, but this is a big offensive line. This is a big defensive line. I think 2 or 3 of their linebackers are all 240 plus. So this is a really big football team. They're a physical football team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bachmeier is just deceptive in terms of, like, you just wouldn't think he's as effective running the football as he is. He's hard to sack. Like, it's easier said than done to stop the running attack. It's not just hand off to L.J. Martin and let him go up the middle. I mean, there's just a lot going on that's allowed for Bachmeier to control the running game with his ability to use his legs.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Joey McGuire says about Texas Tech's defense wants to make sure opposing quarterbacks know that there's a football game being played.
Right.
Right. I think that's one really underrated aspect of their defense is its physicality and just how punishing their hits are when David Bailey and Lee Hunter and Jacob Rodriguez and Ben Roberts, when they make those type of tackles, those type of plays, and it forces teams into mistakes because they're thinking about that next hit, and they do it legally. And that's what I love about these two football teams is, like, we can talk about all the NFL bodies in the SEC and the Big Ten, but these two teams, from a physicality, we're going to punch you in the grill and hit you right at that chin strap or right at the shoulder pads with our shoulder is as competitive as I've seen in the Big 12 in the last couple of years.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkid. This is Big 12 Radio. Plenty more to come as we preview Texas Tech and BYU this week. On the way next, though, it's time for our very highly anticipated Wednesday segment. It's our power rankings, top 5 teams of the Big 12, and then we power rank something random on National Redhead Day. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkid. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and the TuneIn app, and you can watch us on Big 12 Studios. Yo, we are presented by Modelo and heard on the TuneIn app. If you have not yet already, make sure to download the TuneIn app, where you can check out all things Big 12 and all things Big 12 radio. It's part of the great TuneIn offerings. TuneIn, free radio across the board with incredible stations both across the country, across the world, and broadcast exclusively by TuneIn, including Big 12 radio. We are super happy to be on TuneIn Radio, so check us out on the TuneIn app. Download it today for free. Also, you get a couple of games as part of Big 12 Radio on TuneIn each and every week. The games of the week this week, BYU, Texas Tech, of course it is, 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern, and then Kansas, Arizona, 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern time. All right, along with James Wesley, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. You can watch us on Big 12 Studios and find out where you can get Big 12 Studios at big12studios.com. Without further ado, each and every Wednesday, we power rank the top 5 teams of the Big 12 because it's not good enough to just have things in this world. Remember, you have to power rank them accordingly. And so on Wednesdays, we put our pants on one leg at a time, except that when our pants are on, we power rank. When we put on pants, which we now have to since we're on video.
What about shoes? Are you one of those people that you put both socks on first, or do you go one sock, one shoe, barefoot, and then another sock, another shoe?
Socks, shoes. Yeah, no.
All socks.
Why would I be barefoot with a sock and a shoe on? That's ridiculous.
I go one sock, one shoe. I want to be complete on the left side, then I fire off to the right. Sock,
That's
shoe
got to feel
combo.
so weird for
I'm
the
not
right
walking
side.
around with one shoe on.
Look at me with a shoe and socks on, and I'm barefoot. That's just weird. It's bizarre.
I do it quickly.
That's a weird behavior. I'm not going to lie. Hit me up in the chat if you think that's weird. All right, let's power rank.
Number 5.
Number 5 for me,
I'm going first,
USUR.
since that's what I said would happen, and it's got to happen. All right, number 5 for me, as I've got to remember who I put for number 5. Oh, yeah, this one's easy. Houston. I feel like the top 5 this week is pretty easy.
Do you?
Okay, maybe not. Now, Houston is fresh off their loss
you?
to West Virginia. I do. We'll see who you have number 5. Maybe that's the biggest distinction here. But, yeah, I've got Houston number 5. I still think full resume outweighs the loss to West Virginia, which was a really bad loss at home to a previously 2-win West Virginia team. But I still feel like the full resume outlasts anybody else that could be put in the spot. I think it's a clear delineation between the top 5 teams of the Big 12 right now.
Clear delineation. I hear your clear delineation, and I raise you a muddy delineation. I've got TCU at number 5. TCU Horned Frogs. Okay, they've played one.
Who are they?
They've played, right?
Do they play anymore?
That's how it feels with TCU. And West Virginia just beat Houston, and TCU the week prior had gone on the road in their house and beat West Virginia. And I look at their overall resume, and I still look at the fact that it's not always pretty. They're not blowing people out, but they beat Baylor at home, which was a massive win, a game that the final was very misleading. They almost let it slip away after a 2+ hour rain delay. Like, they're 6-2. They're a game back from the games they've played because they had early season buys, and I think everybody's just kind of written them off. But I've got TCU at number 5. I think they still have a top 3 quarterback in this league. I still think Josh Hoover is an elite passer. The ground game has been really good since like week 3. So I'm still kind of keeping my eye on TCU. I've got them number 5.
By the way, TCU visits BYU next week, so stay tuned for that.
Number 4.
Number 4 for me is Cincinnati. Again, despite a loss to the Utes, I still think full resume. They just still have the one loss in conference play. Offensively, defensively, like they just got absolutely butchered by Utah. But despite that, again, I'm going full resume here and putting Cincinnati at number 4.
Yeah, I've got Cincinnati number 4 as well. And see, this is where I think there's a gap in this conference. And not to throw shade at Houston or Cincinnati because I really like both of those teams. But
throw the shade, James.
The shade has been thrown. Chuck that shade. I threw that shade right over that mountain. Utah, Texas Tech, and BYU, clear-cut top 3 in this conference. And I think that was proven on Saturday the way Utah beat Cincinnati.
Yeah.
If that's even a 2-score game, maybe I feel a little bit differently. But Cincinnati, I think, is a really good middle to upper half Big 12 team that should play in a nice bowl, but I don't think that they're a team that's going to be playing in the Big 12 championship game, and I'll eat my crow if they do.
Yeah, I'm with you. Clear delineation, not muddy between the top 3 and everybody else.
Delineation.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Utah. Again, I think it's pretty clear who 1, 2, and 3 are. Maybe we have a difference in 1 and 2 in terms of opinions. Maybe you have Utah even higher. I don't know.
I don't know.
Crazier things have happened.
I don't know.
Utah, though, in that mix of Big 12 teams with the 2 losses, but the 2 losses are the 2 teams they're looking up at. Sometimes your schedule can dictate what happens, and this is certainly the case. Not many teams have had to play BYU and Texas Tech this year, and Utah's one of them, and they've lost both of those games. So we know that Utah's really good up front. Utah's now ranked 13th in the college football playoff rankings because have basically dominated every game they've won, and then got dominated by Texas Tech, and then had a close loss to BYU. So every game, aside from the BYU game, has been a blowout, either for Utah or against Utah. And Utah, I thought, was most impressive this week in terms of how they not just ran, but threw the football as well.
Yeah, I've got Utah at number 3. I think you could make a case, and I'll just say I believe Utah is the best 2-loss team in America. I think they are that good. Devin Dampier was not 100%. We found out later after the fact in their loss to Texas Tech, a game that was still anybody's game until midway through the third quarter. And then against BYU, Utah on paper should have won that football game. They had more yards, but they had key fourth down stops by BYU's defense that ultimately killed a lot of drives. And they weren't real creative on fourth down. It's almost like the offensive coordinator, who's very new age, said, we should do this and this and this. It's 4th and short, and Kyle Whittingham's like, no, halfback dive. Run it between the tackles. BYU had several fourth down stops that were huge.
Yeah, well said.
They're close to being a 1-loss team is what I'm saying.
Number 2.
Number 2 here is BYU, the undefeated Cougars, who are traveling to Lubbock to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I just think when you look at the full picture and resume, Texas Tech's more impressive than BYU, but obviously this thing will be fought out on the field. I'm also agreeing with the College Football Playoff Committee here. I mean, Texas Tech is the number 1 rush defense. They're top 5 in defense overall, and they're top 10 in offense. So anytime you're both top 10 in offense and defense, you're in a good spot, which is why I have BYU not number 1.
Wait, you've got BYU number 2, Texas Tech number 1?
Yeah.
BYU's ranked 7th in the College Football Playoff rankings. Texas Tech is 8.
I thought it was the opposite.
No, sir.
Wow, I must have looked at that incorrectly.
No, sir. No, sir.
Thank you.
I'm going to call you out.
All right, fine. So I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly with the CFP. What was the committee thinking about putting BYU ahead?
I'm going to call you out, then you can punch me in the face, and we'll call it even.
Done.
Yeah, I've got Texas Tech number 2, and I simply, this deep into the season, cannot have a team that has a loss ranked higher than an undefeated team. I know BYU's had games where they've trailed in the second half 4 of their last 5, but the bottom line is they figure out a way to get it done. Texas Tech is dominant. These are 2 legitimate top 10 teams, but Texas Tech, the thing that concerns me about them, if I'm looking at predictive metrics, is I don't know that if Baron Morton, if he misses time the rest of the way, that they're going to run the table.
No, you're right.
Like, that is a huge unforeseen circumstance thing that really I think their season hinges on because he's that good, and they've already lost Will Hammond.
Number 1.
I looked so quickly at the rankings, I guess, that I saw what I wanted to see, I suppose. But yeah, shocking. I thought this whole time.
Nice.
I studied it last night.
Breaking news.
Texas Tech, 8. Number 1 in my heart, though. Yeah, I mean, look, they laid the wood to a Utah team that BYU had to, barely scratch a claw past, which is one of the reasons why I have Texas Tech ahead. And again, Texas Tech being both top 10 in offense and defense, they're multiple on offense, and versatile. Like, you just can't take one thing away. You can try to take away the running game, and they can throw the ball on you with the weapons they have. Caleb Douglas and Reggie Virgil, like Terrence Carter's back, and he's an absolute freight train getting downhill. So to me, it's Tech's versatility, whereas it feels like if BYU's not running the ball effectively, they got no shot to win. Texas Tech could beat you in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, both these teams are really good. And after Saturday, if this is a close game and it goes down to the wire, if these teams are ranked 6-7 in next week's poll,
see what you did there.
My house is going to lose its mind, as will all of America. I would say America will lose its mind if these teams are ranked 6-7 next week, which they could be 6-7. But I cannot wait for Saturday because I think we are going to find out a lot about BYU. I mean, BYU, this ain't Kansas. They got beat last year after starting 9-0, at home against a below 500 football team in KU. This is Texas Tech, a top 10 team. So this is a chance for them to prove they belong. And it's also, are they going to be more like Cincinnati, where big line doesn't make sense, you go on the road and you get blown out? Or are we going to sit here next Monday and say, man, BYU, win or lose, that team is legit? I believe they're legit. I love LJ Martin. I love what they do defensively with those 12 interceptions. That's going to be huge on Saturday if they can get Baron Morton rattled and throw in a couple of interceptions in terms of what happens.
All right, let's randomly power rank now the top 5 redheads on National Redhead Day, shall we?
Number 5.
This may be the most important power ranking we've ever done, okay? So choose wisely. Number 5 here, I mean, there's a lot of redheads that should be on this list. I'm going to go, though, at number 5 with Conan O'Brien. Iconic redhead. Of course, Late Night with Conan O'Brien was a fantastic show. It's a huge part of my childhood. And then I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I think some of the best seasons of The Simpsons, Conan O'Brien was the head writer, executive producer of. So give me Conan O'Brien as one of the 5 best redheads in the history of the world.
Ari's reading my mind. I've got Conan O'Brien number 5 as well. The redhead Renaissance man, Harvard wit, Simpsons writer, late night legend at number 5.
Number 4.
All right, number 4 for me, I'm going to go with Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I mean, she's an icon.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you could say that a cartoon character with a fin is hot, but it feels like, that's appropriate. And I'm talking about the cartoon version of her, not the real live action version, which I haven't seen, don't know. But Ariel, The Little Mermaid, number 4.
Great pick. Excellent pick for many different reasons. Number 4 for me, I've got Emma Stone from Easy A to La La Land. She is the definition of range, sarcasm, style. She can do musicals. She can hit you with the comedy. Big fan of Emma Stone. I've got her number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is Scarlett Johansson, ScarJo. I mean, is there a more iconic female redhead in terms of a leading lady? She's got great acting chops, great range. Scarlett Johansson, ScarJo, number 3.
These are personal favorites, okay? I've got Blake Griffin at number 3. Red Thunder. Dunking over cars, roasting comedians. He's been excellent in his NBA coverage at the desk. He's phenomenal. I think he's smart. I think he's funny. He was so good at Oklahoma, by the way. And he was on the Kardashians, where I thought he was funny there. He dated Kendall Jenner for a while. Blake Griffin, number 3.
Number 2.
All right, this is where it gets serious. I've got Thomas Jefferson at number 2. Little known redhead, by the way. It feels like slight to redheads that Thomas Jefferson's never depicted as a redhead, but he was very much a redhead. Tommy Jeff, a founding father, number 2 on my list.
Yeah, I'm the one with the 70-year-old old soul from the guy that wanted to rank board games number 1, has Thomas Jefferson. I'm going with Isla Fisher. She is the redhead, the actress from one of my favorite movies of all time, Wedding Crashers. I'll find you. That's her signature line from that movie. I thought she was hilarious. Also, I kind of had a crush on her. Maybe still do a little bit. I've got Isla Fisher at number 2.
Number 1.
All right, number 1 is an easy one for me. I'm a huge fan of art, so I'm going with Vincent van Gogh, who, for my money, is the greatest ever. If you look at some of his art and paintings, still they look like they're wet in terms of the texture that he uses on them. A tortured genius who only sold one painting his entire lifetime, only to die and have his paintings be worth fortunes of money. Vincent van Gogh, number 1 for me.
Yeah, you went pretty serious with the top 2, and I have a tough time disagreeing, okay? But do you know who Eva Marie is?
No.
She is the WWE wrestler that has that signature bright red hair. She was on Total Divas from 2013 to 2017.
Got it.
Taman, you know who Eva Marie is?
So you just listed the top 5 hot chicks that have red hair? Is that what you did?
A little, no.
Including Conan O'Brien?
No. I mean, Blake Griffin was on my list,
True.
but I was a big James liked him some Eva Marie. She hasn't been in the public in a long time.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. There's our power rankings, including the top 5 redheads. Maybe the most important power ranking we've ever done. Kalani Sitake, not a redhead. Next. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today, it's Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin, and we are so pleased to be joined right now by the head football coach for the 8-0 BYU Cougars, Kalani Sitake, joining us here on Big 12 Radio. Coach Sitake, how are you?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well. A pretty big game on Saturday, and we'll get into that. But I want to start the conversation today talking about karaoke. You a fan of karaoke?
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
Karaoke's a big part of your program, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we do team sing-alongs quite a bit, and I mean, we try to get guys in a vulnerable spot and try to let them have fun with it.
Is it like a weekly thing, or is it just kind of like random spots? Like, take us through that side, because we know you have a beautiful voice, and you like to sing. So, I mean, how take us through kind of what karaoke or singing means to your program on a specific basis.
Well, I don't know if I have a beautiful voice, but I do have one thing that's called effort, so I'm going to give everything I got. But I think it's when you say karaoke, it's probably more like team sing along. I want the guys to sing along the songs and just kind of, I mean, everyone plays music at practice. That's not a new thing, but I feel like if you're going to listen to music in practice, and then you might as well be able to get out and sing a little bit, and maybe let these young men appreciate the people that actually make music for a living, and see how hard it is, and then also but have fun with it too. I think when we do team sing-alongs, we do it once a week, and I usually do it just to try to get the guys to relax and then kind of just be unified doing something. And the best thing is when you're singing a song you don't really care for, or you don't even know that well. For some reason, there's guys that don't like different genres that are out there, and it's important for them to understand that there's good music in different genres, that you just got to be willing to just try it out, So, and then it's different than just listening. When you're singing along with it, I think that gets something out of you. I think it's just a lot of fun though. But when guys are out there and just being close with their teammates, that's what I'm trying to create here.
I've been trying to get Ari to sing All Too Well with me weekly on this program for over a year now, and it's not yet happened, but it will one day, and maybe you can be the inspiration for that, Coach.
Well, it's hard to do. I mean, especially when you have things like cameras on your phone, it makes it a little difficult. So if you're gonna do it with your boys, and you got to have a bro code to never ever post this online or something like that.
That's what
See, I don't trust him. That's
bro
why.
code.
I don't
it's the bro code. All right, Kalani, Bear Bachmeyer. I know that you thought he could be your starting quarterback this year, a true freshman. But you cannot tell me that you thought he'd be this good this season. I mean, he is balling out week in and week out. What's been most impressive to you?
I've been most impressed with his humility, and just him being a great teammate. And just enjoying all the little things, I don't want him to ever forget that. He's having so much fun with the fans and with his teammates that it's been really cool to see it, because I knew he was that kind of kid anyways. But the other great thing about him is that he realizes he doesn't have to do it by himself, and he's got some great teammates, and the offense doesn't have to win games all the time. You can count on special teams and defense to help you. And so I think understanding that has probably maybe relieved him a little bit of the stress. But at the same time, I want him to have ownership of the program and know that a lot's riding on him doing his job and making sure he does his job right. But the job can't just be about how successful he is at it, because there's so many different parts that go into it. I mean, you can have one play and one person isn't blocked, and all 10 guys are doing their job, and then it's just not working. And the goal for us is just to keep working at things, even if it doesn't look good right away. And it's a 60-minute game for a reason. And so having him, I don't know if you've been watching much this season, but when we have a successful drive, he runs off the field, goes to the bench, grabs a tablet, and tries to learn. When it doesn't go well, he does the exact same thing. It doesn't really matter if it's a good drive or a bad drive. He's always on the sideline learning, and that's something that I didn't teach him. It's something that he has from within. He has a great family that teaches him that. But when the quarterback's doing that, everybody follows. They'll do it too, and that's been his commitment to learning and getting better is something that's unique that I haven't seen very often.
I'm so many coaches at this level are former quarterbacks, and so you're unique in that way. And I'm curious, everybody that plays the sport understands what you talked about in terms of the importance 1 through 11 or 1 through 53, whatever it is, that everybody has to be successful on a play for a play to work. But do you think like the fullback background for you gives you a greater emphasis or acknowledgement of that?
I think so. I mean, I was, being a fullback and playing for Lavelle Edwards and Norm Chow, it means that you probably weren't going to run the ball much. You're going to probably block and you're probably going to catch the ball. You had to, the only reason why I wasn't an O lineman is because I'm probably 2 inches too short and my hands are too good. I could catch the ball. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm bragging about myself there, but the truth is, I was willing to take whatever role came my way, and I knew that even though I didn't have a lot of success in the stats part, played a lot of games, and I was able to make an impact on the game, and didn't really need the spotlight. The spotlight belonged better to guys that were better looking than me. I'm okay with that, and but I can tell you one thing: when you had a quarterback that you worked hard for, whether you're an O lineman, the unsung heroes of the game, you're an O lineman or a fullback or a tight end or just whatever role that you have. When you have a quarterback that is hugging you and shows you appreciation and gratitude for your role, that's super special, and so quarterbacks that have done that to me when I played, you just always want to give up everything for him, and you want to make sure that you protect him and put him in the right place to be successful, especially when they're so young in the program.
How is BYU so good at playing complementary football? Like that Iowa State game, you guys were down 24-10, and then you outscored them 31-3. And when I watch BYU, it's like when you guys start to get a little momentum, there's no stopping that train. So what goes into that?
Well, I think a lot of it, there's so many different factors. One is that you have to have great leadership on the team. And so if you're going to have great leadership on the team, you have to have a program that's built around the young men on the team, the players themselves having some autonomy and having some say in what they want to get done. So if you're doing a practice schedule and you want to do some individual work and maybe you have 20 minutes to do it, if you allow the players 20 minutes to decide, hey, what do you guys want to work on today for the 20 minutes? If they chip in and they tell you, hey, this is what we want to do for 20 minutes, that's going to be a great 20 minutes that's going to be on the field in practice. And that's an easy thing to just give up autonomy, just letting the players be involved with it. I learned that from Lavelle. I learned that Lavelle would be so cued in to help me, having the players feel like it could be, it has to just be more than just the uniform and the color shoes, things like that. If you can give them some autonomy in the program and trust the young men to do it, man, they'll thrive with it, And so that's what we're trying to do. And I wish I could take credit for all of it. I mean, I've had an amazing mentor, Lavelle Edwards. He was awesome for me. And so when I got to play for that guy, I wanted everybody to have that same feeling like I did when I played for him. He was a head coach for 29 years. So me and guys like Tom Homo, Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Ty Detmer, all of us never played together, but we speak the same language because we had the consistency in the head coach, and that he always the way he taught it was like it carried over throughout 3 decades. And I'd be foolish right now as a head coach if I didn't take advantage of that and apply it to our program now.
Is it just as simple as that? Is such a strong motivator, the autonomy, the ability to be in control in the way that maybe some coaches overlook that?
Well, I think there's a bunch of factors that go into it, but if you're trying to create intrinsic motivation, it's a book I read by Daniel Pink. He wrote a book called Drive.
It's a great book.
It mentions if you want to create intrinsic motivation. And so the interesting thing is he mentioned AMP, right? So if you're trying to amplify intrinsic motivation, you have to give autonomy where people feel like they have some power and some say in things. And then you have to give them mastery, which means that they feel like they can be the best at something. and then you have to give them purpose where they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. So if you can do those things, then you should have an environment where intrinsic motivation will take over, and then that carries over into leadership and carries over into the team, and it carries over whenever times get rough and you're facing some adversity. But the interesting thing is, I read that book, and I'm looking at all the different examples, and man, that's what Lavelle did naturally.
Wow.
Hey, this is the stuff that we got to see, and
That's crazy.
but there's a lot of stuff out there, information out there that will when you piece it all together, man, it's having it. Reading the book is one thing, but living it in a program. I mean, you look at the teams that have former players from Lavelle, Kyle Whittingham's at Utah, Steve Sarkisian's at Texas, Andy Reid is at the Chiefs. They have a lot of that within their programs, and man, it all comes down to the one guy that I know had a big key in it, and that's Lavelle Edwards.
Talking BYU football with head coach Kalani Sitake here on Big 12 Today and Big 12 Studios. Coach, when you watch Texas Tech and prepare for this game on Saturday, what stands out?
Yeah, I think Joey McGuire is a great coach, and you talk about building a great culture. The players have bought into his system, and he's done that for years and years, and he's able to establish championship teams. So you can recognize that they have this love and appreciation for him and for their staff. There's a great unity in the program altogether. And then you combine that with the fact that they have some really good players, and you talk about complementary football. They are a great example of that. That they're able to play some great defense, get some turnovers, create some chaos, get short fields for their team, for their offense. Special teams finds ways to make a difference, and I mean they get after the punter. They do a lot of different things that are really difficult to prepare for. And so, looking at it, there are a lot of the things that we want to be too. So when you're looking at the matchup, it's really difficult, but I like it, man. I think it's going to get our guys. We definitely has our guys' attention. We're watching on film, and we know that there's not a lot of room for error. And so we've got to be at our best, and that's what the goal is. We can, we just prepare and see what happens with this weekend. But we definitely have to put in the work.
You obviously have a huge game on Saturday and you want to win it and all that other stuff. But like when you sit back and think about it, like, is this exactly what you envisioned for BYU football in joining the Big 12 and you were instrumental in delivering BYU to the Big 12, as instrumental as Lavelle probably, or at least carrying on the torch from Lavelle. But like, is this like an undefeated BYU going up against another top 10 team here, a top 10 matchup? Is this kind of what you envisioned BYU could be at the best?
The blessing that has happened at BYU with athletics is the Big 12 conference. It's something that we've been lacking and we've been missing. That's the catalyst. And so being part of a program when you're going through independence for so long and you're trying to find a place and you're just playing anybody you can, trying to create a conference, trying to create a conference schedule on your own, that's hard to do. But then when you are able to be involved in a conference that's not only is an amazing conference with great leadership, but then you're looking at all the coaches. It's amazing coaches in this conference. And then you're looking at the fan base that are involved with all these institutions. They're amazing. So we get to go into Lubbock and see an amazing fan base. We just went to Iowa State and saw an amazing fan base. How can you not love it and appreciate it? You know what I mean? So we're looking in this game and looking in the opportunity, man. We're so thankful to be in the Big 12. It has been everything that way more than we anticipated how it's going to help our program. But that has been what's elevated and upgraded everything in our experience. That combined with our fan base has brought a lot of eyes to what we're able to accomplish, and it's because of that affiliation, that partnership with the Big 12. We feel like that's the one thing I can tell you from a head coaching perspective. That's the one thing that I think was the biggest difference for us.
Coach, not only is this an elite matchup in terms of the coaching staffs and the players, this is an elite uniform matchup on Saturday. You guys have these new lids. You've got the Sailor Coug logo on there. What all went into that? Those are sweet, by the way.
Yeah, I think the young kids love that stuff. I'm an old man, so hey, if it makes you play better, then I don't care what it looks like. Just put it on there. I'm just excited about the matchup in the game, and and it is kind of new. So I'm also okay with seeing some new things on the helmet, and we'll see if it makes us play any better.
Coach, how do you win 19 of 21 games?
I think we just focus one day at a time and one play at a time, and then you can live with the results if you do your best. That's I've never been fixated on the end result. I'm not worried about the win or the loss this weekend. I'm worried about, can I get these young men to play at their best for 60 minutes, and that's my job.
Last one for me, Coach. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh man, and anything. I love all the Bob Marley stuff, so I'm always going to go reggae, island reggae, because I'm from Hawaii, and then I don't mind country too. There's a lot of parallels between and common ground between reggae and country, but there's not a music genre I don't like, so I'm willing to sing it all.
Is there like currently like a go-to song you like singing right now? Chris Stapleton? Is it Post Malone?
You know, if I'm being honest, you can never go wrong with the Boys to Men stuff, man.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so that's my jam. There's not a Boys to Men song I don't like.
Water Runs Dry, On Bended
Yep.
Knee.
You guys beat Tech, and the college football playoff committee is going to be on bended knee, Coach. Okay.
I love it. Let's go.
Kalani Sitake, his team's 8-0. They've won 19 of their last 21 games. A remarkable stretch here, and it's been fun to watch. Kalani, thank you so much for your time as always. Good luck this weekend. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, guys. God bless.
Awesome. Take care, buddy. Thank you so much. Be well.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Coach.
Coach. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you
Thank
again
you.
soon. Thank you. All right, there's Kalani Sitake joining us here on Big 12 Radio in advance of their humongous game against Texas Tech. With James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Tommy Lloyd, fresh off their opening season victory over Florida in Vegas in what was very much a home environment. Great game. Koa Pete had 30 points in his debut, and not to be outdone or played second fiddle, but Jaden Bradley had 27 points as well and looked extremely dynamic. So excited to talk with Tommy Lloyd here momentarily about the start to the season.
Like that game felt like an NCAA tournament game in November. It was super loud. It was on TNT, which is one of the rights holders for the NCAA tournament. So you had the same announcers, you had the same fan engagement. It was a neutral site game, technically. And like an NCAA tournament game, they're neutral games, but usually the crowd is leaning one way or another until you get to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. Just felt like an NCAA tournament game. And it was so fitting that, Florida wins the national championship last year. They're playing in a game like this. Love that it's against a Big 12 school, and the Big 12 gets the win. And remember, Arizona started like 4-5 last year in the non-conference. They didn't have a win like this until conference play. This year, they're way ahead of schedule in terms of where they were last year. They balled out.
Yeah, and it's funny if you look at the box score, and one of the things we talked about a ton last year with Arizona was one of the top offenses statistically in the Big 12 last year, but doesn't shoot a high volume of threes, and that's how they started off the season as well. When you look at the 3-point shooting differential in this game, Arizona in their season opener shoots 2 of 5 from 3.
They shot 5 threes. They attempted 5 threes.
Florida went for 20 or attempted 27 threes. So Florida attempted 22 more threes. They hit 5 more. So, they were plus 15 from 3, but, Arizona still shot the ball 49% from the floor, 30 of 61 overall, and that's the key for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last I checked, teams shoot a much higher percentage from the foul line than they do the three-point line. And they got to the free throw line 38 times. Like that downhill attacking, we're going to get to the basket style of basketball was poetry in motion against Florida.
All right, we're talking now with Tommy Lloyd, here the head basketball coach of Arizona, and is this is a real background, Tommy, we're looking at with you, with the mountains and the cactus behind you?
I live in Tucson, a.k.a. Paradise.
That's incredible. All right, so it's a win. It's one win, but it had to be fun because it feels like Vegas has always been a home away from home for Arizona basketball.
Yeah, I'm lobbying hard to get the Big 12 tournament there, but I'm not getting much support.
I'm with you. We'll do it.
It's no fun being the new guy.
You and I could both go to your mark and tell him we need to go to Vegas.
Oh, I think we could tell your Mark whatever we want. I think he's going to do whatever he thinks is best. So
yeah.
No, Vegas is an awesome place, and obviously we got great proximity to it, and we just have a long history of playing there, and our fans love it. So we try to get a game there every year, and just happened to be on opening night against Florida this year.
Coach Koa Pete, that 30 burger that he put up, I know you coached with him or coached him, I should say, this summer. So you probably knew how good he was, and a lot of people didn't.
Oh.
Did you see a performance like this coming?
Yeah, I knew how good he was, and I know how good Jaden Bradley is, and apparently the rest of the conference doesn't. But that's for another story. And to be honest with you, we're fine with that. Like we're not a program that's trying to build things on fake preseason teams or sizzle. We want to come out and perform. We want to be a program that's based in substance and consistently produce a winner, and so that's our number one focus.
I know we've talked a ton with you about the 3-point volume and whatever, but do you feel like at this point in time it's almost a market inefficiency to a degree to be a predominant 2-point shooting team? Like teams are so enamored with shooting threes that it feels like it's actually swung the other way. The pendulum has swung the other way in terms of efficiency from shooting wherever you are.
Well, we have talked a ton, but we are. Honestly, we talked so much I forgot a lot about what we talked about. When you guys held me over after that a semifinal game at one time, 15 minutes extra on a game night. Listen, there's lots of ways to do it, and at the end of the day, the game can evolve, but a lot of the same things still apply. If you can, be successful in the paint area, scoring the ball, defending the rim, rebounding the ball. You give your team a good chance to win. And I didn't go into to the game saying, guys, we're shooting 5 threes, and whoever shoots the 6 threes coming out of the game. You know what I mean? It's literally how the game played out. I was kind of really surprised after the game, and I'll give credit to our guys for, attacking where they felt like they have advantages, and that wasn't honestly not the game plan. And we know, shooting 5 threes a game, probably isn't a long-term successful strategy, but it's how that game played out, and we were there to get to attack with a process, hoping to achieve a result, and we did that.
And to that end, I heard your interview with the Field of 68 following the win, and you compared Koa Pete to Larry Johnson. And I watching him, that's such a great comparison because, he does have some old school to his game. He really uses his size well. And again, Florida has one of the best front courts in the country, and Koa Pete did not look like a freshman. He looked like a bowling ball going up against that front court.
Yeah, he's a really good player, and when I make those Larry Johnson comparisons, that's just for, some people to have something to grab onto, maybe to give him some context. Larry was also the number 1 pick in the draft, and he played in college when he was 22, 23 years old at UNLV. So Koa's 18, we'll give him some space. He had a really good game. But I think the most exciting thing about Koa is just his character, and I think what I'm anticipating is his ability to learn over the course of the year. That's what we're going to focus on, and we took yesterday off. I'm literally sitting at my desk where I do most of my prep work at home right now, and I got a bunch of notes scribbled down, and I'm excited to get back with the team today and get to practice.
For context for the listeners and the viewers, every time we talk with Arizona basketball coach Tommy Lloyd, he brings up Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament, and they get this massive semifinal win. It's got to be close to midnight. He's dog-tired, and our producer at the time is dragging Tommy Lloyd into this literal weight room to do a radio interview with us. And I know you didn't want to do it. Frankly, Coach, I didn't want to do it. Power and Light was calling my name, but you were a good sport, and we appreciate your time.
Well, the funny thing going back to that moment, I always give you guys a hard time about it, was I honestly literally thought he was joking. I was like, you're joking, right? Like, no. I'm sorry, like, come on, you're joking. No, I'm serious. And then 5 minutes, and then 21 minutes later, I walk out of that room, and but hey, you know what? You guys are doing a great job. So anything I can do to support you guys, I'm a fan of.
Man, we appreciate it. And I hear the same tone in your voice when you're talking about, apparently a lot of other people don't realize how good Arizona is this season. Like, are you guys?
Guys, that's just a joke. Listen. I'm sure people that know, that I'm concerned about know. Picking all league teams is always hard. It's guesswork.
Right.
And yeah, we replaced some really good players, and there's reasons guys transfer. And maybe some of it has to do with some of the guys that are coming in. And so in this modern day era, there's going to be some of that. But I felt good about the guys we had coming in. I never for 1 second wavered or thought that we were going to take a step back. And my hope is we can earn the right to take a step forward, and that's going to be our focus. Is trying to crush the process. Getting better day by day. We have young players that I think can grow. We have veterans that are in new roles that I think can grow. So to me, that's the exciting part about coaching.
Yeah, man, I think Jaden Bradley's maybe the most underrated point guard in the country. Like, he just looks like a running back. He can handle it. He can get anywhere he wants on the floor. What have you seen?
Why weren't you saying that before? Why are you saying that after he scores 27 points on national TV? They come out, talk about a layup and low-hanging fruit.
Tommy, we'll roll back the tape, okay? We did a deep dive preview. I believe I've said that.
No, listen. I know you guys are always trying to get more of my time. I'm just going to take your word for it, okay? I'm going to take your word for it. You need to prove it to me. You telling me you thought it, that's enough for me.
He's a baller. He's
a great guy. He's a great guy. What makes some players special is how they leave space in the room for other guys to be good, and that's really important, because it's a it's a 5-man game on the court at one time with some layers behind it that are gonna come in and out of the game, and you need guys. Like, a really good skill is to let other guys get better. To be honest with you, not that I have no reason to talk about BYU, but I felt the same thing when we had AJ this summer with USA Basketball. Not only is he talented, he also leaves room for the other players to be really good too, which ultimately, the more good players you can have, contributing to their potential, the better you're going to be. And so I think that's a great trait for players.
Yeah, with your experience in coaching that team, I mean, hyperbole be damned, but I mean, from a freshman class standpoint, some of the guys that you coached, I mean, is this as good as you've ever seen from a freshman class?
I mean, who no, guys, you guys, you're on the team overreaction right now. It's 1 or 2 days. Like, I mean, these guys are really good. Yeah, they're really good. You know what? But I'm sure if we dug deep, there's been other freshman classes that are really good. So I'm not really good at saying these big
Right.
proclamations or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of good players, and to me, it looks like they can make an immediate impact, at the highest levels of college basketball, and which is going to be really exciting because fans and TV like nothing more than a really talented young player. I mean, they're enticed with it, and so sometimes veterans like a Jaden Bradley or a Tobe Awaka, go underappreciated,
True.
because they're a little older and they've been around a while. And there's just a familiarity with them. So, those guys are really important to winning too. Maybe more important.
Yeah, the
You know.
blue,
So
for
so
sure.
I think you factor it all in, but there's no doubt the freshman group looks really talented this year, which and which is really cool is we have a lot of them in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Coach, what did you do last night? Like, you guys get this huge win on Monday. Last night, are you watching other college basketball games? As a lot of teams are tipping off their season last night, are you breaking down film? What was your evening like?
Both. I did both those, and then I hung out with my family. My son came over, our grandson came over, and was tearing up the house. So spent some time with my dogs. All that exciting, normal stuff, right? Right now I got to finish breakfast and take the garbage down before the garbage truck comes. So life is normal here. Nothing. You don't win a game on Monday, and the garbage doesn't automatically get taken out on Wednesday.
How old is your grandson now? I remember seeing him running around in Kansas City.
He's I think 16 months, so
Wow.
we're getting close to a year and a half. So
Got a
it's been a
basketball
tough
in his hands
time.
yet, or?
Oh my gosh, this kid's crazy for it. Loves it.
All right, last thing for me, you mentioned looking at the film, getting to practice today, taking the day off. How much time did you spend on some of the end of game execution and inbounding?
Oh wow, we're going there, huh? Not a lot. I mean, I think obviously we spent some time on that, and heading into the game, obviously not as much as we had, but it's really funny. I've been doing this a lot of years. It seems like you need live reps in games, for guys to really understand how important that is. And you can say this, you can say that. I mean, I thought we were fine. You know, uh, with our second little thing, we were running to get Bradley the ball, but he slips and falls. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I mean, Jaden. I guess the coaching on that is Jaden. When you're running, don't slip and fall. And then the one before, Delhi has the ball, and it's the classic. These players, they're like a magnet to the ball at the end of the game. They runs too close to the baseline when he should have gave himself a little more space, and then Delhi could have called a timeout. So yeah, lots of good things to learn from. So. I mean, we definitely have that on in a film session today, and hopefully we'll be able to cover it on the court as well.
Well, Coach, we could sit here and pepper you with questions all morning, but we got to stay on your good side. So we're going to let you go. But, man, that was awesome on Monday. Huge win for the league. You guys look really, really good, and we're excited for the season.
Yeah, thank you. Got a big one versus Utah Tech Friday. Hopefully you guys will be tuning in.
Absolutely. We will. Tommy Lloyd, it's always fun to be visiting with the head basketball coach from Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, off to a great start with that win in Vegas over Florida. And a win is a win is a win, especially against the defending national champs. It was very impressive. All right, with James Wesley, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo and heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Next time we got to talk Beastie Boys with Tommy Lloyd. He had Mixmaster Mike with him, like post game. I guess he's hanging out with him. Like Tommy Lloyd is super cool. I mean, you're hanging out with Mixmaster Mike. That's amazing.
What was the number one Beastie Boys song of all time?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded
asking
question.
A very, very big Beastie Boys fan here.
So for me, it's Intergalactic, only because every night, or every day, I should say, I would rush home from school and watch VH1's Countdown. Not MTV. They only did like the top 10. VH1 went deep, and Intergalactic had at the time an iconic music video and was a banger of a song. And like every day, I'd get home and sit on the couch and just be like, "Where's it gonna be? Is it gonna be number 4 this week? Number 5?
A sick video.
Number 3?"
One time I had a show, and the song "So What You Want" was our intro music.
Tamin', the bar's been set high.
What you want? But also, like, there's an album. There is a Beastie Boys album called "The In Sound from Way Out," and you have to listen to the album all the way through. There's no lyrics in it. It's all musically done. So it's like it's hard to. Like, they have such a ridiculous catalog of incredible music that it's hard to just boil it down to one song. Mm-hmm. Even though we just did.
We kind of did.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn's also up there.
Yeah, that's a classic.
But I highly encourage you to check out the In Sound from Way Out. It's not exactly the type of Beastie Boys you're expecting.
Okay.
There's no lyrics.
What's it called?
The In Sound from Way Out.
I love music that doesn't have lyrics.
Yeah.
It has no lyrics.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here for that.
Some good instrumentals out there.
I know.
Just the music.
I know, Taman.
It's great.
I know. I listen to it every morning on my way in.
One of the coolest things that sports fans can come together to do, and we've seen this, we've talked about this when it comes to Buffalo Bills fans. Like, they do a really good job of raising money for causes associated with teams or players that the Bills happen to be playing. We've talked about, I think, once when they knocked Andy Dalton out or something, that they raised millions of dollars for his charity. Well, this is happening now with BYU. BYU's also done this a lot too. And so one of BYU's fans on Twitter that has a pretty big following, Sporty McSports, is encouraging BYU fans to support a GoFundMe for the Texas Tech team barber's wife. So Texas Tech, their team barber, his wife, was severely injured in a car accident from a drunken driver and is in the ICU. And just to show how incredible the support is by BYU, when Sporty McSports on Twitter first tweeted out a link to support this, it had $5,000 raised. They were asking for $25,000. It's now up to $64,000. In fact, Kirk Herbstreit donated $5,000 to this. So really incredible to see. And again, sometimes sports fans can be very toxic. There can be a lot of back and forth that's really bad, but sometimes it goes the complete opposite direction, where sports fans come together for an incredible cause, and that's this here, where the team barber for Texas Tech, his wife, severely injured in a car accident caused by a drunken driver, and the least you can do is help support from a monetary standpoint, and that's what's happening right now.
Like, man, this is such a cool story, and says a lot about the fans in this conference. Like, we can be at each other's throats on social media when kickoff happens on a Saturday afternoon, but ultimately this league is united, and the coaches are as tight as any other conference in America. When we attended the spring meetings, that was evident, and really that was probably like my number one takeaway. Like, I can't remember anything X's and O's wise or NIL transfer portal that the coaches were talking about with us. It was more like, hey, we're all here, we're all hanging out, and we're all on the same page in terms of let's get as many teams in the college football playoff as we can, let's get as many teams in the NCAA tournament as we can, and let's go out and let's kick some butt in the Olympic sports too. Like, it was just really cool. And BYU fans, like, man, that is awesome. How easy would it be for BYU fans to just hate everybody in this conference? Because everywhere they go, you know, the opponent's fans can be relentless to the point where the league has actually had to implement where you'll be fined if it gets to a certain level. But they continue to rise above it. And they're like, man, these people need help. We're going to help them. And this isn't the first case.
No.
Like, they did it with Kansas State last year when K-State played there. There's always like something behind the scenes that their fans find and take note of and help the opponent. Like, they are the perfect example of we're all in this together.
Yeah, the perfect example of everything that can be great about sports and sports fandom. You know, I think so often in sports media in particular, we're inundated with these toxic negative stories, some of which you just mentioned in terms of fans and how they're referring to BYU or BYU players during a game, and that just scratches the surface there. I mean, fandom across the board has some major toxicity in it, and it's so like when you see stories like this, it's like, oh wow, it's amazing what you can do in a positive way when fans can come together like this. Mm-hmm. It really truly is. All right, James Westling, Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio presented by Modelo here on this What's New Wednesday, reacting to the first college football playoff rankings. A reminder, too, if you missed any of our great interviews today, we talked with Rich Rodriguez, the West Virginia head football coach. We talked to Kalani Sitake, the BYU football coach. We talked to Tommy Lloyd, the Arizona basketball coach. Shout out to Taman Turner, our producer, who's getting it done with great top-name guests, including the biggest and best coaches in the Big 12 on a daily basis. But if you missed any of those interviews, go check out our podcast page, just wherever you get your podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. Just search Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. You'll find us there, and you can find the Kalani Sitake, Rich Rodriguez, and Tommy Lloyd interviews, which will all be available up there on the podcast page. So make sure to check that out. All right, Big 12 Radio brought to you by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. James, you were telling me in the break that the Texas Tech BYU game is actually not the biggest football game of the weekend.
It is not the biggest game this weekend because Friday night there's a showdown
in the Big 12.
In the Big
Is it UCF Houston?
Flag football, 7-year-old. You on the sideline, me in the stands. It's playoff season.
Wait, you're going?
It's going down. Yeah, I don't have a game this weekend. I'm here.
If you've been following along, both James and my
You don't have to bring a cardboard cutout. I'm here.
They play flag football in a YMCA flag football league, Little Friday Night Lights from Pierce High School, and they played already this season. The Bills got the better of the Bears in that game, but there's a rematch for this huge tournament that if you win, you keep playing Friday night. So that'll be a big one. Now, Rowan, pretty big performance the first time these two teams met, so we'll have to see. Now, I will say this. I believe the winner gets the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are basically flawless this season. Like, nobody's beaten the Chiefs. They're basically the real Chiefs in real life. They get every call. Everybody wants them to win. Andy Reid's their coach.
And they have 10-year-olds playing for their team. I don't know how they do that.
Check the birth certificates.
I will check those birth certificates. Those kids are massive. Yeah, they can run any offensive system they want.
Yeah, they can. I just have to add, so there's a big mother-son dance on Friday night at our kids' elementary school.
Okay.
Some have called it Mother Boy, if you watch Arrested Development, which you don't.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Or didn't. But our full team will be there, but that's sort of looming in the backdrop is...
There could be some distractions.
Exactly.
This could be a trap game.
Yes.
I'm really just there to ridicule your play calling. Whether you're calling the plays or not.
Oh, I'm heavily invested in.
Like, are you holding a clipboard?
No, but that's a good idea.
You should hold a clipboard.
Yeah.
Like, hold a play sheet.
I'm also thinking about bringing a headset.
Oh, definitely.
Just to really make it seem like I'm actually doing something.
Yes.
I mean, that is one of the keys to life, is not actually doing anything, but making it look like you're doing something.
Are you holding a play sheet or a Chick-fil-A menu? Nobody knows, and it doesn't matter.
We're going to do a press conference after the game. We're going to have a lot of questions for you. You better be prepared.
Ooh, that's what we should do on Monday.
A
press
totally
conference. Yes.
We won't have anything else to talk about on Monday.
No, Monday's shows are light.
Yeah.
Like, we do a little bit of game recaps. On Monday, I'm here for it.
And by the way, play calling, it does in many ways come down to like play calling.
I know.
But what I'll do most likely, I'm just going to project this out. It's going to be execution. Like the play was there.
It's going to come down to turnovers, but ultimately it's on the players.
Like a lot of other coaches where it's like, yeah, the play calling's fine. We're practicing this. It's the execution. That's our biggest concern right now is we're just not executing.
I think you should just be
owed for the players suck.
That's harsh. I want to see you on the sideline just like doing this the whole time and yelling tempo. Like tempo after every 2-yard loss.
I told you that when this season started, I wanted to run tempo and
I know
pace.
you did.
The issue is it's not a 100-yard field where you get a bunch of first downs, so tempo doesn't exactly matter. And in some ways, you build a lead, you want to sit on the ball.
Oh, that's amazing.
You want to really take the clock out, air out of the ball in certain situations. We're probably more BYU than Texas Tech.
Okay, what's your guys' record?
We have 2 wins. I can't
2 wins.
2 wins.
All right, so probably 6 or 7 losses, I'd say. Like, the best part about this whole thing is, and we weren't doing this show on video at the time, but when this first came up that our sons were playing in the same league and would actually play each other, like, Ari took it very serious and bought, like, offensive coordinator online software to design plays and had, like, this really detailed scheme, which I was blown away. I was very impressed.
I'm
and I thought, wait, these kids are 7? Like, I think we might be a few years. Let's see if they can pass before we're doing that.
I'm ashamed to admit the amount of time that I spent designing plays in this program that I licensed for a non-nominal fee.
Yeah, this is like hundreds of dollars.
No, once you pay, you got it, right? So I've got this.
You have the software for life.
For life.
Okay.
So maybe this year it was a bust.
I mean, 4 or 5 years from now, it's going to pay off. I can tell you.
I'll tell you something. We're going to be running double reverses by next season, okay?
I just remember the next day after your first practice, I've never seen you more dejected. It's just a total gut punch.
Oh, you should have seen me at practice. I literally and figuratively ripped up the playbook just to show my frustration with where I was.
The playbook.
In terms of the offensive coordinator.
Printed all these elaborate double reverses, quarterback counters, and it's like these kids are like, "What's for the snack?"
They're like, "What's the quarterback?" I was like, "Oh, great."
Just ripping up the playbook.
Do you remember back in the day when Dennis Green came out with the famous, like, the Bears are who we thought they were?
Oh,
I could totally see Ari doing that after a game. Like, if they were to lose, he just comes up.
We scouted them. We knew exactly what they
are who we thought they were.
We couldn't stop them. Just incredible. We knew exactly. They wanted to get the ball to Rowan in space, and we couldn't stop him. Pull his flag.
Yeah,
some of the kids on our team tackle too, by the way, where it's like incidental contact, but it's like, hey buddy, wrap up next time.
Oh yeah, like I set the pregame over under at 2.5 kids that we will have crying by the end of the game. Like we had the other team in tears, quite literally, and we hit the over. We hit the over. 3 of them went down.
Was that what I saw? They were saying that
bawling.
Some guy was like, some goober was going up to the kids after the game and screaming in their face, "You like that?"
Totally
was that you?
That's my energy at these.
I heard goober and I thought that's the designation for James.
And that's me. That's me.
Yelling at kids. Oh yeah, why don't you go crying home to your mama? Oh, that is your mom. Okay, hi, good to see you again.
Did you put your clothes on this morning in the dark? Why are you dressed like a Crayola box?
Does it have the same?
How many different color palettes are we going to wear on this show?
It's a fair criticism, and I thought twice of putting on these shoes with how many colors I was wearing. But it beats your black and gray that you're always wearing.
Exactly. See, the black pants just kind of blend into my seat. I look like a guy that finished designing uniforms for his intramural team called the Graphic Designers.
All right, that's James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. Taylor Turner producing today's show. A reminder that all of our great interviews are available wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, you can always watch the show back on YouTube as a part of Big 12 Studios. Thanks, as always, to our great producers, David Turner and Anthony Smith. Thanks to James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We're out. Peace.